Yeah. Welcome to CED Talks, where we separate fact and fiction. Method over myth every time. This that CED talk, yeah, we set it straight. Cut through the noise, elevate the debate. No pseudo talk, no foggy claims. Just evidence-based when we build these frames. CED talks, yeah, clarity first. If it ain't got method, it probably won't work. From ancient knowledge to modern science, we draw that line, that clear defined. They say the ancients had science. Hold up, pause. Knowledge ain't the same as methodological laws. Observation, yeah, but control tests rare. No predictive models, you gotta be fair. We respect the past, but we keep it exact. Precision matters when you deal with facts. Astronomy grew, astrology split. One stayed empirical, one lean myth. The shift came through naturalistic method. Just and revised, that's how we embed it. Not culture bound, not tied to a place. It's a universal tool for the human race. This got CED Talks, yeah, you said it straight. Cut through the noise, elevate the debate. No pseudo talk, no foggy claims. Just evidence-based when we build these frames. CED Talks, yeah, clarity first. If it ain't got method, it probably won't work. From ancient knowledge to modern science, we draw that line, that clear defiance. They blur definitions, start moving the goalposts. Turn fried to a claim that don't hold close. Science ain't on, this a process refined. Independent of culture, space and time. You can't redefine it to fit identity. That's how you lose all epistemic integrity. We test every claim, we don't just believe. If it can't be verified, we don't receive. From early observers to labs today, it's rigor and doubt that paved the way. Not name dropping scholars to win a debate, but data and method that validate. So what's your ideology? That's cool to ask, but truth ain't decided by the loudest class. We question it all, no sacred ground. If it don't hold up, we break it down. This that CED Talk, yeah, we live in direct. No fear in the facts, just intellectual respect. No more, no mirror, no fantasy, just truth, logic, and consistency.
Science is organized knowledge. Wisdom is organized life. Immanuel Kant. Good afternoon, and welcome to another CED Talks. You know what we do here? CED Talks, where we promote scientific literacy, because it's a vaccine against the charlatans, the hoodwinkers, and the scammers in our community. Speaking about scammers in our community, take a listen.
What's your ideology? Seems to be the question round here lately. Every discussion rooted in blackology, fueled by the lack of integrity. Case in point, the so-called tragedy, misleading the people, high-level foolery. Smash, come of us, king's monologue. It must be a conspiracy. Nostalgia got them stuck in the past, always reliving history. Ask Dr. Ben and Clark, say their names, here's our spark. All one big fantasy. Smoke and mirrors, only confusion, no clarity. The nigga pro, no crazy. Van Sermon and Rashid. Now they teaching God energy, but that's another story. Reggie out here seeking glory. For him it's about his legacy. Highest little movement ended prematurely. Reggie was denied his opportunity. He signed at the feet so surely. It was meant to be his destiny to the king of psychology. That's your ideology. search quality, cherry picking data. That's a tragedy. Call yourself a scholar, then it's a travesty. You know what's right. Keep it trying to make science black. Who's confuses science with technology? Reggie, is this your idea of everything? A flame for blackology, a black city brand. Let me not digress. Don't wanna get lost in that mess. Even the skin nap. Reggie tried to contest that affected him emotionally. Reggie came loaded with more pseudo-foolery. Yet another battle he lost horribly. Obviously, Reggie, you're not ready. Ideology got you looking stupid, silly. Squints his eyes. Where he lies, if the look is ugly, you will never beat me. I got no emotions, no ideology. That's the difference between you and me. Oh, and don't try that. You got a degree. The name dropping don't work on me. I ain't never been a victim of blackology. What's your ideology? Seems to be a question round here lately.
It's Wednesday, hump day, having a little fun. Yeah, that's the best way. That's the best therapy to deal with these people lying in the community. Reggie, you got to do better than that, Reggie. Y'all seen the notification, so don't forget to tune in this Saturday. Prime time, 9 o'clock, when I bring you another session of The Lie. The notification is out. Y'all know who we dissecting this Saturday. Emotional Carderini with the Clippers. Yes, headed down
Subject
the top of
identified,
the line.
literature cross-referenced, pseudo-killer, the lab is open. The incision is precise, I don't argue with advice, I just paralyze the fallacy and sacrifice the heist. Check the methodology.
Yeah, don't forget to tune in this Saturday for another episode where we dissect pseudo claims. We clip them up and we pass them through the rubric of methodological naturalism. And we see if their claims, assertions are accepted or rejected. Then they get to run the gauntlet. You get to run the gauntlet. You get to run the gauntlet. Defend your position, affirm my conclusion, concur, or oppose, see the holes in my argument, come and defend yourself against the dissection that took place. Don't forget Saturday, 9 o'clock, right here on the Pseudo Killers channel. Yes, and everybody sees in the thumbnail who is next up. You're going to see how your own words going to get used against you, young man. Man. Interesting times in the community. Narratives being pushed, stories being told, too much rhetoric, too much nonsense. And over here, we just stay focused and continue doing what we do, which is teaching, education, and the methods of understanding and dealing with our environment, our natural environment. So today, we are looking at the two final pillars, Kant and Hume. Kant and Popper, sorry. You know, Hume is my favorite, so forgive me for that one. Before we get into that, let's go through our program. Welcome to CED Talks, where we break down the ideas that shaped science, philosophy, and the way we understand reality. In this series, we've moved from method to doubt to skepticism to materialism. But today we arrive at the final stage, not a new theory of the world, but the rules that determine what we can, how, what we can know about it, and what we should reject. Today's focus: Immanuel Kant, who defined the limits of human knowledge; Karl Popper, who defined limits of science itself. This is where philosophy stops asking what is true and starts asking what we can know, what can be tested, and what must be left behind. If early thinkers built the foundation of science, Kant and Popper drew the boundaries. Immanuel Kant lived such a strict disciplined life in Koningsberg that locals reportedly set their clocks by his daily walks. His routine was so precise that he became a human timekeeper. Yet this same man revolutionized how we understand time itself. Karl Popper originally trained as a cabinet maker before becoming one of the most influential philosophers in science. He later rejected dominant theories like Marxism and Freudian psychology, not because they were unpopular, but because he argued they were unfalsifiable. Hmm. Fun fact for today: Karl Popper didn't just criticize pseudoscience from the outside. He personally engaged with it early on. As a young man in Vienna, he was exposed to the influential movements like the Marxism and Freudian psychoanalysis, which were widely accepted as scientific at the time. But Popper noticed something strange. These theories could explain everything and therefore could never be proven wrong. That realization became the turning point of his career. It led to his development of his most famous idea: if a theory cannot be falsified, it is not scientific. I didn't start the presentation, Mika, and thank you for being here again today. I missed you yesterday, by the way. Where were you? I didn't start the presentation yet, Mika, so don't worry. You'll see the presentation. Papa didn't just reject bad ideas because they were unpopular. He rejected them because they were impossible to test. Good afternoon, Mika, and welcome. You see, I do my housekeeping, and there's certain people that I look forward to seeing, right? So you're one of them. Thank you for being here today again, though. So before we get into the slide and presentation, I often like to give you a backdrop story, a little nuanced perspective on these individuals. We're going to dive and take a look at Immanuel Kant. Interesting fellow. He was they say, a punctual man. He was a part of the aristocrats in Prussia. He was the well-spoken, well-articulated, popular. He was the establishment of reason in Prussia. Part of the establishment, part of the elite. He is in the middle of the same turmoil. You see what's going on? He's in the middle of the same turmoil. On the other side, you have the brash, blue-collar revolutionaries fighting the French establishment. You have over the waters our good friend Hume. These materialists, these imperialists, empiricalists, and materialists, they were rocking this man's foundation. First of all, he's a devout believer. Number two, what's going on is he's fearing. He's in a state of crisis because he don't want this type of revolutionary movement to come into his environment. He can't get around Hume's philosophy. He admitted that Hume woke him out of his slumber. So just like Descartes, he comes up with a boom, bam, boom, bam, bam. We're going to see it in the presentation, the noumena, and the phenomena. So he gave science its due. You guys go over there and investigate the real world. But we can't actually know nothing about the noumena. Now we know what he was trying to talk about was that interface. Right? We understand the interface today, but in those days, you see the French philosophers. They are the ones that brought human beings into the realm of being dissected as part of nature. But at this time, that wasn't the case as yet. So what does Hume do? What does Kant do? Kant creates a wall. You have your empiricism over here, but since our sensory perceptions are limited, you cannot tell me anything about the noumena, the way we perceive the world, slipping his subjective reasoning. So you can't, like the modern apologetics like to do. So you can't disprove God. So he created the noumena and the phenomena, separating these two environments, all in an attempt to maintain the status quo. Again, we see a group of philosophers who, on a particular side and a particular point of view, right, is trying to affirm the establishment in a time where their system of knowledge is falling apart. We are still in the epistemic rupture. We are in the heart of it. He gives the final declaration. Listen, you guys stay over there, and we're going to stay over here. Yeah. And that, it was Kant. Similar to Descartes, he found a way to make his presuppositions, his arbitrary assertions, and his belief still valid, although science proved the opposite. He found a way to make dualism plausible, where the French materialists completely annihilated that possibility. The serendipity of the scientific method, methodological naturalism, is quite remarkable to see and witness throughout this series. So, before we get into the presentation, let me remind you of the fathers of philosophy.
Yeah, pseudo killer. We're going under the hood, past the observation, into the code, the philosophy of the machine. Let's work. I'm viewing the world through a lens that's purely mechanistic. No room for the magic, it's logic and purely statistic. The slot shoot a blooper, saw the universe's gear, stripped the codes from the machine and replaced them with years of observation, calculation, cold hard dissection. Every movement in the cosmos is a physical connection. Man is a motor, a clockwork, a bone in the vein. Let's don't a log, I call approach, I'm isolating the brain. It's the call. No absolutes in the sight. Just the lens focused sharp in the middle of the night. Nothing a log I call naturalism, the rule of the game. We don't speak it forever. We just map out the frame. Harmony, induction, probability is king. Science ain't a prophet, it's a thinking thing. Now it's a David Hume, the skeptic with the wrecking ball, telling you that certainty is headed for the heavy fall. Just cause the sun rose today don't mean it's guaranteed. That's the problem of induction, that's the intellectual seed. So we build on real ability, we don't claim the throne. We're just navigating reality with the data we've grown. Science stays humble, keep the absolute.
Let's get into the presentation without further ado. Kant and Popper, the limits of knowledge and the logic of science. If we are uncritical, we shall always find what we want. Karl Popper. Immanuel Kant. Rebuilding knowledge grounded in nature. Thoughts without action are empty. Intuition without concepts are blind. Category, understanding, forms of sensibility, time and space, experience, knowledge, possible, synthesis of intuition and concept, object of experience. Immanuel Kant. We do not know reality as it is. We know reality as it appears to us. Kant's response directly to the crisis created by Hume. Remember I told you, Hume had this man up. David Hume showed us we never observe causation, only patterns and habits. Kant's solution: the mind actively structures experience. That interface we know today. We see but a limited spectrum of light. There are other animals that have the ability to filter light at night. There are those that can see by means of heat. There are animals that see via sonar, that they create a resonance and produce the images in front of them. So we understand the limits of our experience. We understand that we evolved to reproduce and survive. We did not evolve to experience the world as it truly is. So he came up with a phenomena, the world as we experience it, and the noumena, the world as it is in itself, unknowable. If it's unknowable, scientific impact. He establishes the limits. Science deals only with observable reality. We cannot make any claims about the soul, God, things beyond our experience, which means you can't deny it either. Kant didn't deny reality. He denied your ability to step outside your mind and access it directly. You can't step outside your mind and access reality. There's only an interface that is there. It's grounded in the experience. Science is not about proving things true. Enter Karl Popper. It's about proving things false. This is a counterintuitive nature of science. Like I was explaining you, it was by means of looking at how these guys think. He was like, wait a minute. Freud got an explanation for everything. If the man pushes the drowns, pushes the kid in the water and drowns him, it's because of impulse. If he gets in the water and saves a child from drowning, it's for some other phenomenon. So it's always an explanation. You're never wrong. Reminds us of our believers, right? If you recover, God did it. If you die, God had a better plan for you. God never wrong. God is unfalsifiable. So he addresses the core problem. How we are going to distinguish science from pseudoscience. This is a segue into the next series of CED Talks. We are going to delve into the world of pseudoscience, past and present. This is a dilemma. How? His answer: falsifiability. A theory is scientific if it can be tested or if it can be proven wrong. not science, if it explains everything, or it cannot be tested, or it cannot fail. So now we had the whole history of pseudoscience where they just made stuff up and made it sound scientific. We have a whole history of, and we have a whole legacy of people having these assumptions about what Egypt is and what it represents. And it is all built on a whole pseudoscientific premise. We have these old people coming back with secret hidden knowledge and all this so-called wisdom about the Kemetic culture, and they made it up. Today we got people still talking about Madame Blavatsky and these type of people who just making stuff up. What was the scientific impact? Popper reframed science as a process of conjectures and refutations. Conjectures and refutations, mind you, inductive reasoning, right? We inductively deduce and we look and we make these generalizations. That's a conjecture. Now you have to go through the exercise of refuting it. White swans. All swans are white. Conjecture. You must attempt to refute that claim. And this is why continuous testing is fundamental. There's never a final truth, only better models. So, until you observe that black swan, tentatively, all swans are white. That does not end the quest. You continuously have to reevaluate, examine nature, look in niches to see if you are going to discover another color swan. That's an ongoing effort. We never reach a definitive conclusion. That tentativity is always there. This is what makes science a self correcting system. This is why science doesn't speak in absolutes. Can, quite possibly, current data suggest, latest observations suggest. This is the language of humility. It is not it is not the language of ignorance or unsurety. It is the language of humility. It is built within the system that I might be wrong. Proportionality. I might be wrong that the sun will not come out tomorrow. But what is the probability of me being wrong? Close to 0.00000000001%. But the probability still exists. We operate on true justified beliefs. So where Kant grounded epistemic in the observable, he created the environment where uncertainty and no absoluteness can be determined based on your interface. At the same time, he solidified the idea that you cannot make any proportional claims about the supernatural. And this is a scientific method. Kant developed a way to maintain his belief system intact because the scientific method cannot question those beliefs. There are no tools to do so. At the same time, making science the endeavor and the system that it is today makes no claim for and of the supernatural. The falsifiability is the final linchpin. When we observe the chronology, you are going to see Karl Popper, who was born in 1901. who survived 2 world wars, was exiled twice. Modern history solidified science, the scientific method, the foundation, methodological naturalism. So when we hear these people talking, they really have no idea what they're talking about. Popper didn't give science clarity, certainty. He gave it a way to detect errors. But throughout this journey, I hope you've seen and experienced that that epistemic rupture was a real physical thing. So now let's examine why these two complete the framework. Bacon, method. René Descartes, he created doubt. David Hume provided that skeptical angle and grounded us in empiricism. Paul-Henri Thierry Baron de Halbach and Julien Offray de la Métrie, the materialists. Materialism, grounding man as part of nature and reality. That's all there is. Kant, the limits of knowledge is only to the phenomena. What we can observe, measure, test is what science will have its say about. The rest you leave to us, the philosophers. We will engage in propositions of reason as to why we are here, or a purpose for our existence. We will conduct the conversation of God, void of your investigations of the natural world. You science guys, stay over there. We'll stay over here. The Prussian elitist. Popper, demarcation of science. Where the rubber meets the road. If you say water is going to boil at 40 degrees Celsius, then I must be able to test that. So I'll apply endothermic energy and let the process initiate. I'll add a thermometer and register the point at which it boils. Once it boils, we are either confirming or denying the proposition. Popper looked at Einstein and he looked at the Marxists and Freud. Freud, like we say in the Caribbean, had a plaster for every sore. He always had an explanation for the particular phenomena. Einstein said, light bends. Light bends. Hard statement that could be proven true or false. When we observed it, Einstein was proven correct. If the sun didn't curve around that eclipse, he would have been proven wrong. Falsifiability is built in to the scientific method. That is science. He noticed that. Karl Popper was a man of contradiction. He introduced falsifiability, but he himself was dead sure that his falsifiability was right. The irony, the beauty, the humanity of science. I painted these individuals as humans throughout this series for us to understand that science is a very human endeavor. If you put these frameworks in your psychological package, you can navigate reality, not with a staunch, cold heart, as many people assume, but in the embracing of humanity. The French materialists were fighting for humanity. He was an early Marxist, fighting for freedom, realized that that idea was unfalsifiable. The certainty with which it operates cost young men their lives. Science is a very human thing. You got these philosophers battling with their inner demons and their perspective and understanding of the world falling apart. These are very human experiences. Science isn't cold, it isn't detached. It understands human beings. It embraces humanity. That's why it puts its restraints on it. That's why it curtails and puts a system in which humility is built into the system, understanding human ego. Science is a tool developed by humans for humanity. Experience without theory is blind, but theory without experience is mere intellectual play. Immanuel Kant. Karl Popper, modern scientific method, grounded in nature. The aim of science is not to open the door of infinite wisdom, but to set the limits to infinite error. So his key idea was falsifiability, as we discussed. Scientific theory must make risky predictions that could be proven wrong by observing observations of nature. What Einstein did. Why nature? Nature is independent of our beliefs. It provides the test for our ideas. It is the laboratory itself. So we see the circle, which we've shown in the first series. Now we see it come into fruition. Carefully observe the natural world. Propose a testable explanation. That's the conjecture. See, this is where we see the word observation coming back, but the objective is completely different from when we look at the word being used in its colloquial sense and indigenous practices. The objective within this philosophical framework is completely different. It is to propose a testable explanation. How this is possible? Why is it possible? What are the underlying mechanisms? Make predictions. Not predictably predictive like the establishment of a calendar. Based on your hypothesis. This hypothesis is now then you can't be making a random, uneducated, unsupported hypothesis. So now this requires amount of understanding of that observation of nature. So that observation of nature is not just sitting there, that's a formal study, preparing you to engage and make hypotheses that are predictive. Not only modeling what you see now, but this model must indicate and then, if then, must have that. Now you go and you conduct your experimentation. Your hypothesis is going to determine what type of experimentations you require, what tools you're going to use, which framework you're going to use, what are the parameters of this qualification. Scientific method, right there. Test in nature, that's a scientific method you guys keep talking about. Completely outside of the conversation. Because you do not understand the philosophical nature of this endeavor. With your emotions, you consistently try to bring us and digress the conversation to simply test it in nature. Well, they had science because they built it, they had science because they did it. Science. possible outcomes. If the theory survives the test, it is corroborated. It's corroborated. It's not proven. You don't prove nothing. If it's failed, it's falsified and discarded. The process of falsification is not to prove you right. It's to eliminate the possibilities of you being wrong. What did you learn from that whole experience? It sends you right back into the lab of nature, into the observation phase. Now you have acquired a wealth of knowledge that makes that observation go to another level, another depth, another angle, another point of reference that is required examination and investigation based on this circle. Circle we discussed in the first series. So when we are having a conversation about the framework that produced this system, we are talking about the framework that produced this entire system. Barbershop boys and the likes are having a conversation about one particular aspect, and in its most rudimentary form. Not preceding a hypothesis, nor making a prediction. Predictably predictive is not a prediction. A prediction in the scientific realm is determining or predicting something unknown, unexperienced, unobserved. It needs to be novel. Kant, you can't know beyond experience. Popper, you can't prove, only test and reject. Humility. Together, they close the door on metaphysical certainty and open the door to scientific rigor. Science is not a path to absolute truth. It is a method constrained by what we can observe and what we can test. Kant draws the boundaries. Popper tells us how to operate within it. The question is no longer whether a claim sounds convincing. And that is what these barbershop boys and narrative creators are trying to do. They sound convincing. The question is, can it survive being wrong? And that's where the lab Saturday night, 9 o'clock comes in, where we test their claims against the scientific method, where we go through the process of analyzing claims without emotion, dissecting them one from one. Of course, we're going to have some fun. We're going to have some fun. We're going to laugh because this stuff is ridiculous. But they think that sounding convincing, they can survive the scientific rigor. And every attempt that they fail to do so, the frustration continues to mount and mount and mount. That's the end of the CED Talks for today. Boom, 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 boom. You're having some fun. It's midweek Wednesday.
What's your ideology? Seems to be the question round here lately.
Y'all know what time it is.
Rooted in blackology, fueled by the lack of integrity. Case in point,
I dropped the link in the chat.
Misleading the people, high level
hit the like button.
Ask Dr. Ben and Clark. Say their names, here's our spark. All one big fantasy. Smoke and mirrors, only confusion, no clarity. The nigga promote Quincy, Van Sertima, and Rashid. Now they teaching God energy, but that's another story. Reggie out here seeking glory. For him it's about his legacy. Highest to the movement ended prematurely. Reggie was denied his opportunity. He sighed at the feet so surely. It was meant to be his destiny to the king of psychology. That's your ideology. Seems to be the question round here lately. Confirmation bias, poor research quality,
Hit the link, Sunshine.
cherry picking data. That's a tragedy. Call yourself a scholar, then it's a travesty. You know it's like keep it trying to make science black. Who's confuses science with technology? Reggie, is this your idea of everything? A flame for blackology, a black city plan. Let me not digress. Don't wanna get lost in that mess. Even the skin now. Reggie tried to contest that affected him emotionally. Reggie came loaded with more pseudo-foolery. Yet another battle he lost horribly. Obviously, Reggie, you're not ready. Ideology got you looking stupid, silly, squinty.
Let me do a little bit of housekeeping before we get into it, Sunchild. Don't forget this Saturday, 9 o'clock, we got a next episode of The Lab where we dissect the claims in the community, the pseudo claims in the community. 9 o'clock Saturday, The Lab. Tune in.
Subject identified, literature cross-referenced, pseudo killer, the lab is
Subject
open. The
identified.
decision is precise, I don't argue with advice, I just paralyze the fallacy and sacrifice the highs. Check the methodology, through the epistemology, pseudo intellectuals or the cultural and apology. High intensity, high contrast, dissecting the forecast, looking through the lens where the shadows of the ghost past. Verify the source, man, I'm staying on the course, applying academic pressure with a concentrated force. Through the rhetoric, standing on the error in your premise, clinical with lyric, I'm a scientific menace. This is the lab.
Sunchild, you got the floor, Sunchild. Welcome to the program. What it do?
Hey, what's up, sir? Peace. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to watch your video, to be honest, brother. I just got in. I somehow I always catch you at the end of your show, man. I was watching another program. But yeah, it's interesting to
4:30 on the dot. 4:30 on the dot is when we go live. So you should be over here because the philosophical underpinning of science is a very important aspect. You said I went from science to philosophy. Oh, that's the whole discussion. Science is philosophy, Sunshine. It is a way of thinking and engaging with the natural world, right? The world is what it is. The way you engage with it, the way you collect your data, the philosophical framework is going to determine the output. So science, when we talk about science, it's a very specific philosophical framework. So this series, the philosophers of science, the fathers of science, these are all philosophers. So when we are looking at individuals like Newton and the rest of them who are in the middle of the scientific revolution, who are giving a structure to a new thought process, how we evaluate our data, how we determine truth. They were creating a new epistemic structure because the previous one fell away. So this is why there's a revolution taking place, and it is thinkers who produce the model and the system we use. Methodological naturalism is a system developed by philosophers to engage with reality. That's
Okay.
why it said methodological naturalism is science. So once you understand that, then the conversation becomes a lot more easy to follow. Then things like African science and their indigenous practices, with we always accepted, they are simply not science. And no one says they're not knowledge systems, but they are not science. Science is a particular way of thinking, and that is methodological naturalism, the constraints we have developed throughout this series.
Okay. So you're really dealing with the philosophy of methodological naturalism in particular.
No, the philosophical framework which establishes what methodological naturalism is, what its function, the constraints. Those pillars were developed by philosophers over a 200-year period. And you see, with Karl Popper, he is modern history. 1901 was when he was born. So at that point is when he establishes the last pillar of the scientific method, which is falsifiability. JJ 7000, what it do, what it do?
What up, family? What's going on with you today?
I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. Rounding up the series with the last two philosophers.
What you got next
Last
after
two
this?
philosophers.
What you got next after this series?
After this series, my last final episode is a chronology, because the way I do my series is I focus on the structure, the information, and the individuals. Once we understand the structure, I add the dates now so we can understand the time span we're dealing with, and then I'm going to do a series on pseudoscience. We delving into the pseudoscientific claims and how they came to be, the history of pseudoscience, because we forget we're having this conversation and everybody's talking about science as if it was the standard. Science produced racism. Science produced a whole bag of pseudoscience. During the scientific revolution in the early 19th century, you got all these snake oil salesmen and all these frauds, right? You got the early psychoanalysis from Freud and these dudes that were unfalsifiable, and they were just using their prestige as quote unquote scientists to just boom, bam, 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 bam. Now, the whole endeavor of science throughout its history was to empower man and take the power away from the order, from the structure. Throughout this series, you see the internal battle between the establishment and what reality and nature is telling us. So this battle and this interaction is going to always be a part of the process, right? So that whole history of pseudoscience, Karl Popper comes in and he puts the final linchpin in it. No, 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 no. You can't just make an assertion. You can dress it up in scientific words, don't mean it is science. And we're seeing that in the community right now, right? A lot of scientifically sounding rhetoric. However, it falls outside the scope and understanding of methodological naturalism. So once you are grounded in this system, you can see through the flim flam coming a mile away, and you're able to navigate reality with both feet on the ground. I've also demonstrated that science isn't cold, it isn't empty. We're dealing with human beings and with real life situations and 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 realities that produce this method for us to engage with reality, right? It's a very human endeavor. We see people fighting with their thoughts, right? And this system coming out of a very, very human process. So it's not cold, it is not it is not distant, and this is what makes science accessible to everybody, right?
So this platform right here is basically about science. You don't do any other topics. Anybody guess that could do like different topics. You just want to keep it to CED Talks, and that could be like anything, right? You know.
Yeah, yeah,
Or you-
yeah. So,
yeah.
what I do is I structure topics and said I talk about them and interject the conversations into the community. You're gonna see in the next episode when I start to delve in to astral projection and this type of stuff, you're going to see all the cockroaches coming out the woodworks. Try to fight me.
Damn,
It's
damn.
going to be fun.
Hey,
And the
hey,
next
hey,
series
you,
is going to kick up.
yeah.
But you
When you
need
and
to
Reggie go get
establish.
it in, bro. What's up with that, man? Is he running? Which one of y'all running?
What?
You and Reggie, man. Y'all going shadow boxing. Which one? When y'all gonna get in the ring?
Reggie can't get in the ring with me. Reggie is out of his league.
I
Reggie
don't
is
know, man. Reggie pretty right. Reggie kind of. I
Reggie
ain't gonna say kind of. Reggie
Reggie,
smart, man.
as soon as I pop up in the chat, Reggie starts stuttering and how Reggie is gonna face me when Reggie knows he's cold cocklight, right?
Oh
And
man.
that's why Reggie is going to be the next dissection after this Saturday night. After I dissect Chef this Saturday night, I'll put Reggie back again on the chopping block. I dissected him once already. I'm gonna do it again. This whole conversation, let me slow it down. This whole conversation started when Ankh did a presentation. Ashe, emotional, got in his feelings, and the
Yeah.
conversation was over his intellectual capacity. It simply was out of his range of understanding. He jumps up there. Oh, you do say ancient Kemetic didn't have science. No, they didn't. They had their own mythological philosophy. This was their system of acquiring knowledge. Reggie takes that. Then there's a debate between Ashe and King J. King J clearly applying the scientific method and talking about the universality of science. The
King.
title of, the title of the debate is African Science. Now, we have established, King J established during that debate, what they are claiming to be African science is just human endeavor. We are seeing these same practices done all over the world. It is not science, but it's early human development, and it is indigenous knowledge. And we can see these similar processes all over the world. When we talk about making fire, before human beings were here, before modern humans were here, our ancestors, archaic ancestors, knew how to build fires. So when once that was demonstrated, Reggie comes on to the scene and tries to move the goalposts even more, making all kinds of claims about African science. There is African science, trying to conflate and confuse the conversation. I approach
So,
Reggie with, go ahead.
so what if I could set up neutral platform for you and Reggie to debate? Would you? Because it ain't gonna be fair for you if you go on Sarnet. It ain't gonna be fair if they do it over here. If
I'll
I could
beat up,
talk to Killer, I talk to Killer Priest. They'll give up one of my
beat up.
time slots and let you and Reggie get it in. At least he don't debate. He discuss. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Would you
let
be?
let Reggie see if he can sit across me and have this discussion. He can't do it. His equivocation fallacy and all of his nonsense is going to be exposed. So that's why Reggie won't sit opposite someone and have a coherent and honest conversation. Reggie is trying to collapse science, right, by making it seem like there's a linear progression. He can't get around the epistemic rupture that I demonstrated here. I will take him right into these 200 years and demonstrate what the epistemic rupture meant. And he can't get around it. Now, those other guys are trying to undermine what we are teaching, and what we're teaching is just the standard stuff that is supposed to be known by the time you enter into college. This is not nothing new. This is nothing extraordinary. However, if there's a need in the community to explain these things adequately, why not? I'll always make myself available and deal with these things. However, we're dealing with some individuals who, first of all, the barbershop boys just want to ride off our back. Now, I
Who the hell is
appreciate
that?
what they do.
Who the
The
barbershop boy?
barbershop boys,
This a new
TMI,
clip? Where these guys at?
Brass, Reggie,
Uh-huh.
the Truest. Shout out to them, though. Shout out to them. They're doing a great job. They're
Man,
providing me with bags and weeks of content. The amount of fallacies and the amount of flim flam they're doing, it's wonderful. Why? This platform is establishing what the pseudo killers supposed to do. We are supposed to be We teach scientific literacy. It is the protection against the scammers, the flim-flammers, and the hoodwinkers in the community. So now we have material. I mean content to produce shows for weeks, isolating these pseudo claims, showing the narrative, and after these two series of shows, the audience can follow and understand the dissection. That's the difference now. Previously, we were using words that were in a vacuum. When I said methodological naturalism, how many people understood it? When we talked about natural philosophy, how many people understood it? Now, when we talk about the scientific method, the constraints, the fact that every claim has to be substantiated, we are not dealing with arbitrary assertions. This exercise have now solidified the way people frame these discussions. The understanding has amplified. So you no longer can retreat down rabbit holes. So anytime Reggie is willing to have a conversation with me, we can have the conversation. The conversation will be better, right? Because then we can demonstrate, right, real time, what is scientific literacy. Reggie learned the other day what is methodological naturalism. Reggie comes back, and this is Dunning-Kruger on steroids. Reggie attempts then to say that, well, we talk about
Leave
mitochondria.
alone.
We still use terms like the God particle. I mean, the level of ridiculousness, like, no, it's childish at that point. Reggie, I'll shoe shine Reggie.
Did he do a presentation for you to refute Reggie, or he just kind of jumping in?
He's, he's everywhere just babbling and making noise, being irrelevant and insignificant, right? Reggie has no home. But the fact that Reggie is now on a campaign lying, right? Reggie
Get
was
him, Reggie.
Reggie up there misrepresenting what African science is, what
Okay.
overstating what it is, misrepresenting it. So I have an article, an article written by an African philosophical anthropologist, and Reggie, let's read the article together. Reggie goes, you see, it says it right there on the title, African Science. Reggie, we can use that term, but what are we talking about? What are we talking about? We're not talking about nothing other than these cultures' indigenous practices, right? Their medicine practices, their cosmological beliefs. These are how they engage with their culture, with their reality. That is not science or anything to do with the conversation we were having. So Reggie's been disingenuous, misleading the people, and simply trying to find himself somewhere where he belongs. The fact that Reggie has no foundation, he's not grounded in anything. He's following an ideology that no longer exists. The days of the Dr. Benz and the Aztecs and the whooping of Egypt, that's long gone.
Now,
Egypt was
in all fairness, Cedric, I mean, you got guys up here in white wigs, and, you know what I'm saying, with ruffles around their goddamn collar, man. Come on, George Washington type. They long gone, and you still learning from their teachers. That's what I'm saying. So we can't say that Dr. Ben and them is wrong. I mean, you know, they work with what they have. You see what I'm saying, brother? So I mean, they laid the foundation down for y'all, and I mean too. You know, so we can't just dismiss them. But go ahead.
If you went through the exercise with me, you see that I was very critical of these people, right? I accuse Hume, I accuse the Descartes of being a flim-flam, right? Kant is an elitist, right? I give honest critique, so I don't just do as if these people aren't human. I humanize these people. I make them real individuals so that we don't see them as these mythical figures out there that can't be touched. I'm a black man up here in the midst of a community dissecting these people that are supposed to be untouched. It's not that I'm glorifying them, it's that I'm exposing them, what their contributions were, their reasoning behind what they did, and a lot of them were flim-flamming. I said it. So I'm not treating them with kid gloves or making them out to be anything more than they are. They're human beings. There are aspects of what they did contributed to the world, and there are other aspects of them that make them humans, right? I don't overstate, don't glorify anything. It is what it is. Now, what that exercise also was is to establish the way in which we approach science. I think I made I think I accomplished that for a significant degree in developing people's cognitive system in dealing with this information. Science isn't something you're scared of anymore either, JJ. You got them heavyweight books now, right? Because it's become accessible by means of these conversations.
Yeah, it's called checks and balances, my brother. I got to make sure y'all, ain't misrepresenting science. You hear what I'm saying?
You see, but because we brought science right down here, right? Now you're not intimidated. You're gonna fact check us now. You grab the
Damn
big
right.
books. Exactly. So my mission, what I set out to do, I accomplished. I got you in them science books, JJ.
Yeah, I mean, I've been exploring science for a while. If you go look at my resume, or some of my portfolio, or my different conversations, debates, I got into conversation with abiogenesis, evolution, stuff
Yeah.
like that. So
Now
I've
you
been doing it for years
now
now,
you
man. But
There you
go
go.
ahead.
Put in that real work. Sunshine, you got the floor.
Yeah,
So,
Cedric,
that's
I'm asking.
Suntan. So what's up, Suntan?
That's Sunshine. Sunshine.
Sunshine. How many goddamn sons
Sun-
we got? Go ahead, man. You the new son.
Hey,
Right.
what's up, JJ?
Go
Peace,
ahead.
peace,
Peace,
JJ.
brother.
Cedric, question. Like I said, brother, I apologize. I did not get your presentation. I understand it's between, you spoke about Kant and Popper. Did you mention Kuhn, Thomas Kuhn?
No, you heard me say Kant and Popper.
Yeah, I'm considering Thomas Kuhn as like a middle ground between Kant and Popper, perhaps. And his views are kind of closer to Kant's, and less so to Popper's. And so it's like a middle ground. And his views in philosophy are considered the consensus. More philosophers kind of lean towards Kuhn than Kant and Popper. With
Of,
regards
of,
to
of course.
falsification and so
You're
on.
looking at
And I was wondering,
a
if you
modern
can, if you can.
synthesis. You're looking at a modern synthesis, right? So yes, Thomas Kuhn is one of those pillars, right, that are now operating within the frameworks established by these gentlemen. He's refining and doing what's necessary. He's been part of the diatribe. However, we are looking at the fathers and the establishment of these parameters. You have a Thomas Kuhn that is operating within the boundaries set by these two individuals. So you're absolutely right. He has a more nuanced and modern take by combining the both of them. That is philosophy. You're always going to get that. But the conversation was about the pillars and how this process of methodological naturalism was established. So he was not part of that establishing framework. He's a later component, and in the realm of philosophy, we can delve into many of them, right? That are
But
post
in so much
the
as
establishment.
Kuhn,
There's no
but
but.
in so much as Kuhn represents a consensus, should we compare Kuhn's ideas to
Why?
Popper's and get? I'm sorry.
Why? He's operating within the frameworks. If that is not part of the fathers, the establishment of methodological naturalism, right?
Well, are we more interested in the fathers or in the consensus?
What is the objective of the program or this series? It is not a matter of interest. It is a matter of objective. The objective was to establish the pillars, the framework in which methodological naturalism operates. Now, if you want
Right,
discussion of
I think it's
post,
important to note that it's not the consensus today.
who said it was the consensus today? The framework is what it is, methodological naturalism. Is there anything outside of that framework that is mentioned by a Thomas Kuhn? No. So we're talking about the establishment of the framework. So anything that you're dealing with is going to be non sequitur to the framework which was established by these fathers of philosophy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think consensus still matters, and I think it's important to give a fair shake
Yes,
between
now
in
consensus.
the critique of Kant and Popper, and in this critique becoming consensus. I think that would be fair to
Okay, you got the floor.
elaborate
Go ahead.
to the audience as well.
You love to subjugate yourself to the live, right? Experiment. So go ahead. You got the floor. Go ahead.
No, brother, I'm not. I'm
No,
not.
well, let's
I'm not
discuss.
prepared. I'm not
Let's
prepared.
discuss. Let's
I'm
discuss
not
this Thomas
prepared. I'm
Kuhn.
not.
You
Listen,
want
I'm
to
not.
discuss Thomas
Honest.
Kuhn? Now, Thomas Kuhn is firmly within the lexicon of what we discuss, and I understand and know Thomas Kuhn very well. However, the exercise here was to talk about the establishment of these pillars, the process that led to methodological naturalism, which Kuhn does not operate outside of. So, go ahead. You got the floor.
No, brother. I'm just looking forward. Like I said, I only mentioned Kuhn to so we can see what his differences are with
Go
Kant
ahead.
and
Go ahead.
Popper.
Go ahead. Go
Well,
ahead.
I'm not.
Go ahead.
I'm not prepared. I'm not.
Go
You're
ahead.
asking me to do a presentation that I'm
No,
not
I'm
prepared to
asking
do,
you
brother.
since
I'm
you
just.
wanted to have the discussion. I'm giving you the opportunity to lay a premise, right, and state your position, and then
Come
we'll
on,
go.
Sunchild, bring it out, man. You got the
Then
floor,
we go
brother.
to the
Listen.
analysis. Let's go.
Look, brother, I do not have a premise. I don't have a dogma or a dog in the fight. All I'm saying is, if we're going to talk about philosophy, it's important to discuss
So go ahead.
the other side
You
and
were
what the
saying I was talking
what
about
the
philosophy.
consensus
I was
is when we're
talking
talking
about the
about.
philosophical
My
pillars
brother said he was going though. You gotta let him get it out. So,
we're not gonna straw man my position again. This exercise was talking about those pillars that establish methodological naturalism. Does Thomas Kuhn operate outside of methodological naturalism or firmly within it?
I would say firmly within, perhaps.
Okay,
Like I
good.
said, I'm not.
Perhaps there's no
I'm
perhaps there. No,
brother,
no,
brother
no, no, no,
Cedric, brother
no, 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 no,
Cedric.
no, 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 no,
brother
no,
said
no,
you gotta let him get it out, said. Don't be
no,
scared.
no. Where we slow it down, right? The question, answer, then you don't run to the next thing. Then we stay right here and we discuss the relevance of that answer. That's the
Okay.
growth process. We don't answer quick and move on.
Okay,
So
so give
we
him
put that
15 seconds to get it out. Yeah,
we
that's
put
all we're
it
saying.
back into the context of the conversation.
You're acting like a dictator.
So now we know that Thomas Kuhn operates within the parameters of methodological naturalism. All right, good. You got the floor again. Go ahead.
Brother, now within the framework of methodological naturalism, there are differences between Kuhn and Popper. And I'd like, since you're the one doing these presentations on philosophers, I'm here asking, can you elaborate on the differences
again,
and why Kuhn is considered a consensus in thought?
Cedric, if
When
you
I
give him
say
the floor, at
stop,
least let the audience
no,
hear what you're saying, man. Come
When I
on.
say stop, when I
This
say
is a
stop,
dictatorship
you
you're doing right now, man.
Why? Why did I make you stop, Sunchild? I'm gonna
Yeah,
ask
why
you.
did you make a stop? I was interested.
Why did I make you stop?
He don't know.
I'm not sure, brother. I
Because
guess you didn't like
again,
something I said.
that's why when I stop you, you need to stop because you're unaware of what you're doing and the clarification is necessary. See, often in these communities, conversations go left because people think they need to get it all out. I do not need for you to create a straw man and then beat it up. Again, I was not talking about philosophers or philosophies in general. The
Okay, so
exercise
how do you want
was
him to structure his
establishing
question?
methodological naturalism.
Okay,
So
hold on.
the
I'm trying to
exercise
moderate this, man.
exercise was establishing what methodological naturalism is. So these are the pillars of methodological naturalism. So
Okay.
now to move the conversation as if we need to be engaging in a philosophical debate, that's not the objective here. But if you want to discuss Thomas Kuhn and his contribution, you have the floor. So we could talk about it, but what we're not going to do is strawman my position or the intent of the presentation.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, Brother Sunchild, do you understand the parameters of asking this question? So, can you frame it differently where he don't think you straw man him? Go ahead, go.
Well, my question really is that I'm not presenting myself as a student of Kuhn, Popper, or Kant. I'm a student of currently of Cedric. And Cedric is presenting these philosophers and their ideas, and I'm asking him,
Can
Stop
he
again.
give us?
Stop again. Stop. Anytime
This
you
is not
straw man
fair,
me,
Cedric.
every time you straw man me, you're gonna stop because you're gonna learn on this platform to steel man people position and be honest and sincere. So every time you do that, I'm gonna demonstrate to everybody that you're lying, sunchild. So go ahead again.
Okay,
Steel man the objective of this series. That's all you need to do. Steel man it. And then we can go into the Thomas Kuhn discussion, which you apparently would like to have. But what you're not going to do is straw man my position. And you're not so slick. So every time you do it, I'm going to stop you. You're always a teaching mode. God killing the building. What you see? What it do? What it do?
yeah, Cedric. I really want to hear what the man had to say. Can you just let him get it out and then go into why you think he's straw man? It's not fair to the audience.
JJ.
See, you shouldn't have promoted this guy. He got power.
JJ.
Just tell the truth. Hey, you're moving the top of slides. You don't know how to act.
What? You see that? You're not gonna do that either, JJ. Don't get upset. You're not gonna dictate how I do things. I'm going to use everyone here as a disciplined example of how the disingenuousness goes on. So no, you don't get to finish when you start with a strong man. You simply don't. Not with me.
Let me just say this. When you give somebody the floor, you write the notes down. Hold on, let me help you out, Sunchild. You write the notes down, then you come back. Well, hey, ladies and gentlemen,
No,
the brother straw man.
JJ, see, you see, when I cut off, no, that's not what we're doing.
But they don't do you like that on other platforms. You gotta be fair.
JJ, that's not what we're doing here. I don't operate how other platforms operate. I do not intend to sit through a whole lie and then come after the fact. I catch you in the lie, I'll stop you there. Then the audience sees exactly the moment you are lying. Then the audience sees the moment you are lying. You do not get to build your straw man house, JJ. That is something that we are going to learn. So
let me ask you a question Can I ask you a question? So let me get this on record. Are you saying that the Egyptians didn't have science? That ain't a straw man. That is a direct question, sir. Go ahead.
Define science, JJ.
You have observation, testing.
No. Those are tools.
Okay, so you tell me what science is. You tell me what it is.
No.
Then I'll go. What is it?
You're asking me if the Egyptians had science. So what is science, JJ? What is science? Let's see if
you tell us, teacher. So I get it right. No. What?
So you don't know what?
What is science?
You don't know.
Yeah, I told you what it is. You have observation. You have testing. You have experimentation, and there's one. I gave you 8 things of the scientific method that day I did my show. You didn't take notes. You did. You was too busy trolling. Goddammit. Now you gonna piss me off, and I'm about to take over and whoop you up on your own CED talk. Do you want that smoke?
Yeah, right
now. Do you want the smoke?
Yeah, do you right want now. Let's go. Right now, let's go.
I'm just messing with you, said it. Go ahead. I'm just go ahead, bro. I ain't gonna mess you up. Gotta have some fun, so don't be so serious. What up, bro?
All right, man. What's going on, Jay? What's up? What's up?
Man, just got out of work, man. Yeah, go ahead, son.
I'm glad you're tuning in, man. Yeah, so Cedric, I don't know why you think you have the power to have your own show and make your own rules. I don't know why you think you got that kind of power. I don't know why. I can't figure out why that man think he can have his own show, then have his own rules that everybody got to follow.
Come on, Cedric.
Why would you have to do that after listening to me talk on my show having similar rules? Why you think you do the same thing? Who you think you are? You think are you a pseudo killer or something? Must be.
Being sarcastic. Come on. Such how, man. You in an uphill battle with these type of rules.
We're here. We exercise.
I got a thing. My fault. I had an announcement to make.
Go ahead.
We have Dr. Aiden on the channel Saturday at 8 o'clock. All right. He watches the show. right? PhD, African Studies, serious dude. All right. So he will be coming on 8 o'clock Saturday, and he's saying what we saying. That's all I'm gonna say. All right. He got the paperwork to match up this conversation. He is prolific, right? He teaches African courses online, right? I'm gonna make sure y'all get that link, and it ain't for free. All right. Serious work. All right. So yeah, he's definitely, fan of the show, right? And he did like one of the most prolific interviews I've seen in a long time by a PhD on the subject matter of science and Diop's, Dr. Benham works, Ivor Van Sertima, and he's right. I think he said like a 2-volume set or something on they didn't come to America. Funny. But yeah, man, we looking forward to having him on there, man. Yeah, bro, he talking our language, man. It's nice to see a person look like us. You know what I'm saying? With
Right, right.
that paperwork, right? Talking that talk that we talk. He said he appreciates us. We're in the trenches. He recognizes us as being in the trenches. We is in the trenches, man. So keep doing what you're doing, Cedric, and right here. Matter of fact, the interview was so prolific, King monologuing them right now, and Comedy Verse is over there pseudorizing. So you already know he was killing them. If they grab it, they show sophisticates. Yeah, man. So, all right. Yeah, that's what it is. So, tune in to the
Yes. Saturday, tune in. Validation.
Well, hold on. What
PhD.
time did you have your thing, though? You had something.
Man,
What time?
whatever time I gotta do that is irrelevant. I'll just push it back. It doesn't matter. I'll just push that back.
That came out of nowhere.
Yeah, that ain't coming into conflict with that. We're gonna do that show. We're gonna settle in, let it simmer for about an hour, and maybe I do the live episode. If not, I push it back a week because we got a PhD on. Are you tripping?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let me say something real quick. Since you're the teacher and I'm the student, can you explain to me what science is, Cedric?
Science is methodological naturalism. Science is a particular mental framework, mental way of engaging with reality. We developed that method as a cohesive system of engaging with data points and data sets from different communities all around the world. The data and knowledge collected by their indigenous system, we could not apply our universal system in understanding it. So we needed a universal system to understand and investigate nature. With that, methodological naturalism was established.
Now see you up here messing up. That's not the definition. Pull up the definition on the board right now. You made it up. You're using it towards your own goddamn agenda to put methodological, what you call it, naturalism, whatever you call it. Bro, that is not the only definition of science, bro. You can't sit up here and flim flam and lie to the audience like you just told Sunchild. Now pull it up on the screen right now. No, pull it up. I'm putting the pressure on right now.
When I asked JJ to define science, it's
no, it's your turn.
JJ, I'm
speaking. Let me go after you, Cedric.
So I asked JJ when I put him up on the big screen.
I'm gonna share my screen. Hold up. Let me get him on computer. I'll be right back.
I put JJ up on the big screen. I asked JJ, what is science? There are like we've all discussed, there are many definitions to science, many ways in which you could use the word. When you are dealing with the community of skeptics, when you're dealing with the pseudo killers, there is one way we are using science. It is methodological naturalism, the way in which you investigate nature. It is not spiritual science. It is not trail science. It is not dog teaching science. It's not ancient science. It's not kind of science. It's not proto science. It's simply science. That's it. The first definition in the dictionary is what we are using. This whole equivocation fallacy is stuck in people's head, and the bait and switch that they do with it is wild. First, they're going to say science is just knowledge. And then the bait and switch comes in where, well, the ancient did what we did too. No, their philosophical framework was different. What they were observing was the same, but the information they extracted was different because their objective was different. You can read the same book 7 times with 7 different objectives and extract 7 different sets of information or knowledge out of it, depending on the context with which you engage. It is the mental framework. What language do I need to use to get that over? Sunchild, did you understand anything I just said?
Oh man, don't ask him.
I ain't asking you.
Don't ask him, bro. Let me. So we settled on proto-science, right?
Hmm.
And they should be all right with that, okay? And I think if everybody just slow down for a minute, man, and kind of recognize that, that's not even a word, yo. That shit come from Latin, yo. You get my point? Even when you read the Cambridge History of Science, so it tells you, the book, they use ancient science, right, for the category, yo. Right? So you can categorize shit. So you know what we're talking about. We're talking about, knowledge used to produce things. You know what I'm saying? And all they would have to do is go to the cultures that they think they talk about. Don't just holler out African science. You know what I mean? Because each culture is different, which is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Go figure out what they were doing in their culture, and then see if it fits into what we call science. That's all you gotta do. And you'll quickly see, because they see it. They say, no, they didn't have modern science. Okay, then that's the only thing we was ever talking about. We weren't talking about nothing else. Right? And so all you gotta do is study the culture.
Wow. I mean, like, there isn't an aspect at this point that we haven't covered
Can't hear
on
me?
the subject. There isn't an
My phone,
aspect.
my thing went out. Did
No.
my thing go out?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you.
No, let me finish.
You're a bit muffled, but we
All
can
right,
hear
hold
you.
on real quick. Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead.
How about now? Is it muffled now? Is it muffled?
Yeah, now you're good. Now you're good. Now you're really good.
All right. I'm saying you can just go to the culture and figure out what they was doing. That's enough. And whatever they was doing allowed them to have food, clothing, and shelter, and reproduction of the valuable offspring at high levels, bro. So it ain't even it ain't it's not a joke, yo. Okay? And so it's they in their own words, they'll say they didn't have mind and science. You just proved my point. Because that's all we ever was talking about, yo. This is like they just retarded or something. Okay, they didn't have mind and science, but they had science. Okay, well then science is modern. Thus the word science is a modern word. Right? They
Yeah.
not Latin. You know what I mean? People in Australia aren't Latin and they had their own sacred wisdom. Science is very particular, yo. We saying that. It's not a shot on them, yo. It's not a shot to the ancestors or indigenous people at all, or the Egyptians, or the Hittites, or the Greeks. The Greeks practice natural philosophy. Africans practice natural philosophy. That's another level. That's okay, bro. That's okay. We got some heavy hitters coming, bro. They keep playing with us, yo. But go
Yeah.
ahead, my
Hey,
fault, Cedric. I just wanted to make that
hey,
point, yo.
hey,
Nah,
Cedric,
please, great work.
It was wrong with
Cedric,
Sunchild. Sunchild, why don't you see that, Sunchild?
why don't I see what, brother?
It's like it's like you just refuse to understand that these people had their own type of knowledge, yo. Like you disrespectful to them people, yo. Why they gotta have the same knowledge we got in 2026 is wild, bro. It's like you saying because they don't got a car, they was stupid. That's crazy. They had their own forms of transportation, bro. That was on the level
No,
for the time
think,
that other people
I
didn't
think,
have. No, why
I
don't you
think
get
you.
that though? No,
I,
stay there, stay there. Why don't you get that
I'm
they had
staying
their
there.
own knowledge, yo? Their own wisdom sacred system, Joe, that was important to their society that raised them to the level. Why? I mean, what's wrong with that, bro? Why it's got to be anything else but what they had? Why they got to have some shit we got now? Why does it even make sense to you?
I think that's a good question, and I think the discussion between Kuhn and Popper answers that question. I think Kuhn, if I'm right, Cedric, help me out. Kuhn would define science from a cultural perspective, and Popper would be more objective with his idea and strict and saying science can only be this. And Kuhn is saying, no, science has a more of a cultural definition as well. But
So then
I'm
why
not
not
sure.
give it? So
I'm
now,
not
why
sure.
not have
But
it
brother,
culture?
I'm not sure if you're gaslighting or projecting
I'm
with that
not.
question.
You see,
Listening
that's
right
why
now,
I asked
yo.
him to do what he did.
Yeah,
You
look
see,
what you did.
you see the flim
Right.
flam.
Come on, bro.
So now Thomas
Cedric,
Kuhn
would you agree?
is
Would you
examining
agree,
the history.
Cedric?
Thomas
Cedric,
Kuhn
would you
is
agree that?
examining. No, don't do that. You had the opportunity, you refused,
Disrespectful, yo.
and now you're trying to sneak your scamming back into the equation. When you look at Thomas Kuhn, he's talking about the history, right? And the points we've been making, cultural containers, is what Thomas Kuhn is saying.
Okay.
Look, don't cut me off. Do not cut me off. Thomas Kuhn is saying, listen, the way the way those early anthropologists and science historians, he's part of the Francesca Rosbach movement. You see how I let him go down the rabbit hole, but he wouldn't state his claim. Now he's trying to sneak it in there. Thomas Kuhn is talking about presentism, about putting these people in their proper cultural containers, not doing exactly what you are doing, Sunshine. This is wild. You're referring to Thomas Kuhn, and Thomas Kuhn is making the exact statement. He is not his
No, he's
exact
not. I
statement.
don't think so. I think he's
making
saying we
the
ought to define. I think
nah.
he's
You
saying we
see,
ought to
you
define
want to do the
science.
flim flam.
I think he's saying we ought to
No.
define science
You
within
want to
those
do the
cultural
flim flam.
parameters.
It's called epistemic regime. It's called their cultural containers. Do not view these cultures with the anachronistic lens. Do not discard their quote unquote science, their knowledge. So you're doing the same thing, and now you're using Thomas Kuhn,
Damn,
who
I
is
left the fucking key
supporting
home, yo. I was
everything that we have been
Fuck.
saying.
Okay,
You see
brother.
why?
I
You
believe
see
you.
why you're part of the lab? Because you
Yeah.
represent. You do the same thing Reggie does.
Okay.
You're doing the
Yeah, I
same
got.
thing. You know, you're
Yeah,
talking about
I can
Thomas
never. I
Kuhn,
can
and you're
never ask
making
a
it
question
seem.
and get a
You're
straight
making it
answer. All I
seem.
get,
You're
all I
making
get
it.
are gaslights
You're making
and
it
hops
seem.
from you, brother. I'm learning. I'm learning though.
Okay, you're
But
done.
go ahead.
You're
I'll
done.
go back on you.
John Child is trying to do the bait and switch. The bait and switch with the all do the equivocation fallacy.
Early.
Now he's attempting to use Thomas Kuhn to make a similar argument. Thomas Kuhn
Wasting
refers to
gas, wasting
cultural
money, man.
containers,
Fuck.
cultural containers,
Mm.
and
Walk
cultural
around the
containers
house,
and
man. Shouldn't even brought the
epistemic
keys. I
regimes,
will never bring them keys in the house ever again.
and their own epistemic regimes.
Frederick,
No,
Cedric,
don't cut. Do
let me
not
just.
interject. Do not interject. When I'm speaking, do not interject. I'll give you the floor. Do not interject. Don't do that. Remember, when you interjected Thomas Kuhn, you're tempted to straw man what the nature of the series of presentations. You are doing as if Thomas Kuhn interjects a different type of argument which undermines everything I was trying to establish. That's number one. Number two, I told you this has a particular foundation, right? Does Thomas Kuhn step outside of methodological naturalism? From the moment you said no, you are not now going to do as if Thomas Kuhn was not talking about presentism and anachronistic framing of these cultures and the fact that we need to appreciate them in their own context. You are not going to attempt to do that, Sunshine. That's the whole point of this whole engagement, and you're consistently trying to undermine it. I'm glad you're proving a good guinea pig, and you're not going to get away with it. But this is what you're doing, and it's sad. Why engage in anachronistic behavior? Why force presentism when we are up here clearly allowing them to be as sophisticated and as developed as they need to be within their own cultural context? Grant, you got the floor.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I respond to what you just said, brother?
In just a minute, Grant got the floor.
Yeah, I think this is often. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. So one of
Yes,
the things I think you often see is using Kuhn as the sort of hammer blow against Kant and Popper becomes a problem. Thomas Kuhn really does ultimately still have a Kantian point of view within his structure. There is still a sort of theoretical paradigm within Kuhn's model of science. So if you think about the way Kuhn thinks about science, he pretty much is still saying that it's still within this, it still has a requirement of sort of having something theoretical. So the ability to sort of think through the framework that is set up by Kant and Popper, correct? Whereas Kant is ultimately saying there is practical and observational and the science of the Egyptians, it had a utility to it, but it still did not meet the theoretical paradigm as what he's talking about. And so even if you were to bring up that ultimately there is a shift by Kant from Kant and Popper to some extent, he's not ultimately throwing out all of it. He's just really moving the viewpoint. But ultimately, the demarcation is still there. The demarcation of it requiring a theoretical paradigm is not lost. So no matter what, Kant does not ultimately show up and agree that the Egyptian was practicing what we think is modern science, unfortunately.
Exactly. Sunchild, you can respond. You got the floor.
Yeah, I think that's where I think I would disagree and perhaps would need more investigating the idea of Kuhn with in regards to the specific question that we've been speaking of for about a month now. What would Kuhn consider the African knowledge, as you would say, traditional knowledge, as science? And I believe that he would say, yes, that is science from a cultural context. And perhaps Popper would not say that because he has more of an objective view of what science ought to be. And that's the only thing. So I'm not suggesting that Kuhn would negate methodological naturalism. All I'm saying is, from his perspective, and I'm asking, do you think he would agree that science, from his principle of cultural context, would he consider African science as science? And that's pretty much where I'm coming from with Kuhn.
I think you've gotten that answer on several occasions, several ways. You answered it for yourself. Does Kuhn step outside of methodological naturalism? The moment you say no,
well, you don't have to. Those are two different questions. You don't have to step out of methodological naturalism to consider what African traditional knowledge is science. You don't have. There's no necessity to step out of
methodological. Right there, Sunchild. Exactly. That's the moment where we say, exactly, Sunchild. So you're talking about their traditional knowledge, right? And it's their system of knowledge. It's an indigenous science, yes. However,
but that's not the rub. The rub is would consider it science as well.
Sunchild, do not cut me off. I let you speak. When you reach to the point that you're making the point, that's it though. You made the point. You are acknowledging the difference. You want to do the spin with words, but it's not necessary. Juju, you got the floor. Pseudo killers go first, JJ.
What's up, Juju?
Good Juju, bad Juju.
I was here for technical issues. To the next person, please.
Thank you. JJ, you got the floor.
Come back to me. Let me get my information together.
I'm here. I'm together. I got mine together. Hey, Cedric.
Yes, sir.
Let's have a heart-to-heart conversation. Me and you and Grant. What is it that you think the problem would be with an African American? Is it like fear that maybe a group of people have something that we didn't have? Do you think that's part of the fear?
Um,
I
It
have
has to
my
be a fear, right?
I have my
I am
theories.
I am honestly trying to understand. I think it is fair, right?
Right? Part
If
of
you
it,
look
right?
at how I framed it, I put us in the same epistemic rupture, right? The old God versus the new God. The
Yeah,
old God want the
yeah.
room to make stuff up,
Mhm.
and the new God is applying the rigors of scientific methodology within the context and within the framework. So we're letting the story tell the story. I'm up here and I'm presenting the fathers of methodological naturalism without any concern for their ethnicity, where they come from. It's just the story of how we got here. So I think it is the old God wanting to maintain a environment where they can make stuff up, where they can challenge the system by not having a proper methodology, undermining what science represents. And I think we the work we're doing here is killing or taking their epistemic foundation away from them and establishing a new system, methodological naturalism, within the community. This was a pseudo community, right? So that is
Yeah,
a
what's your Grant? What you think, Grant?
I think you know, given the structures of which Black Americans and Black Caribbeans we came under, which is a very racialized version of the world.
Mm,
And it has ultimately, in my estimation, shaped the way we think about the world.
mm,
And so we have taken a hyper racialized view of the world and we've shoved in all of the insanity of white supremacy. So, in essence, you take one white person and you make the claim all white people are great,
mm,
correct?
mm,
And then, if that's your framing, you begin to sort of counterbalance it by taking something similar. There was once these black people, even though they have no relations to me. Therefore, all black people are equally smart. And if I can use the same methodology that the Europeans used of saying Columbus was first, therefore we conquered, if I can make the same exception of saying the Egyptians were first, therefore we're great. This has been to my extent the psychology behind it. And the unfortunate part about it is this: the secret's out. Whiteness isn't great, correct? It isn't
right,
great because Columbus didn't do anything particularly
right,
extraordinary.
right.
It just so happened to come along in a time in which they had an advantage for whatever that means. But it doesn't transfer to the white person that works at the Walmart, correct? Who bags your
Right.
groceries. Their greatness is most certainly muted because it doesn't transfer. And I think the same thing happens here with the Egyptologists, correct? You can rant on about the greatness of Egypt. It doesn't change the fact of what you do on a day-to-day basis. Um, if you're just a garbage man, you're a garbage man. There's nothing wrong with it. But you have nothing to do with the Egyptians, and their greatness has no reflection of you. And you have to be the one determining it. And I think the unfortunate part is, I think for a long time, we've had our history sort of, it has been hidden to some extent. And I think this has come, this school of thinking, to whatever that means, has largely adopted white racist supremacy in order to push their own black racist supremacy, which doesn't work out in any way.
You know what I like? I like that. I like what you and Cedric said, and I think it's a mixed bag of things. Is maturity has a lot to do with it too. Presenting outdated information that was grounded in not academic standards, but as a fight for the black community to kind of find their way through the muck and mire of history. Um, and so the history has always been in the secret vault called the library. It's always been there. Colonial powers always had the history. It just was up to us to get you a position of maturity where we can go get it and study it. And so I think actually these days, right, we're reading material that was produced in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. These works are sometimes 80 years old, 50 years old. Diop's work is 50 years old. Dr. Ben's work, 40 years old. John Jackson, another 50 years old. So we was already out the date when these champions, I'm gonna call them champions because they was, right, for the cause, right? produce their work. Now, I always felt like it was up to at least my generation, since we had this new tool called the internet, to kind of challenge the authority. So it's almost like we're at that place in science, right? Where let's just let the phenomenon be the authority. Let's let the work, the information, the things that have been pulled through anthropology, right, and real study be the authority. And I don't think they're mature enough to handle that. And so even when we say that our ancestors did great things in the framework of their time and space amongst even playing field on planet Earth, right? You match hunter-gatherers with hunter-gatherers. You match Egypt with Mesopotamia, West Africa with colonial civilization. You match them two together. You don't mix and match. You know what I'm saying? Because it makes no sense. So I just think they lack maturity and then reading comprehension of the English language, to really even understand what we're saying at this point. It has to be some of those things.
Hey, may I ask the brother Grant a question?
Sure.
Go ahead, Sunshine. Go ahead.
Grant, do you agree with what I just said, that from my understanding, Kuhn would consider traditional African or indigenous knowledge scientific, while Popper would not, based on their different perspectives on what science is? Do you agree that Kuhn would see, from a cultural context, indigenous traditions of knowledge as science?
I mean, based on Kuhn's view, no. I think you're missing the part where it requires the theoretical paradigm, correct? And that because it doesn't fit within that construct, he just doesn't. There's no way to read, no way to engage in his work and his framework and come to that conclusion. And I think it would be helpful. I would just say the structure, the way I think about it. So whenever I read anything, and so if I understand what I'm reading, is I would write down exactly the methodology or the pattern, correct? And then I would go along and see if it matches with my assumptions. And I don't think you would find enough passages that would meet the criteria that you're laying out. I'm not saying you can't. I just think that it would be up to you to provide the evidence that that would happen. I just don't think I'm finding any of that.
Well, I asked ChatGPT, and the answer, the same question I asked you, and the answer is I often yes for Kuhn, often no for Popper, but it depends on how the knowledge functions. Kuhn, it can count as science in a broad sense. For Thomas Kuhn,
they always qualify. It's always a qualifier.
Can I finish?
Just
allow me to finish.
No, because you said enough
Stop.
in a broad sense.
That's
it
a
ain't
moment
the same.
Put this dude in the back. He messing up the show.
He's not messing up the
That's a
show.
moment to stop. Preem, address that point, please. That's a point of order.
You notice how they always have a qualifier when they use these sources. It's sort of like, it's science like, it's always a descriptive to science. When it's science, you just say it's science. When you're talking about astrophysics, it's not sort of like science. It's science. When they go back in time, it's always it's sort of, it's almost, it's science like, it's scientific. It's never the exact thing, and there is no one-to-one match. There is never a one-to-one match. Wait for my next presentation. That's literally what I'm talking about, because they keep making false equivalencies and it don't match up. And it's really that simple. It don't match up.
To have me finish what I.
No, did you read that word you read though? Can we define that word you read first before we move on? Because now we recognize there's reading comprehension there.
Yep.
I was reading.
And I refuse to sit
now.
there
Can I finish?
No, you got to deal with that word.
Define that word. Tell us what that sentence meant.
Yeah.
Tell us what that sentence you just read. Tell us what that meant.
Yeah, read
so
that
we're going to hinge on a word or a sentence?
Yes. Because you're using a source that contradicts your point.
Brother, that's not how studying goes. You have to read things in its full context, not based on one word or
No,
one
words build
sentence. You read things
words
based
build
on
That
full
one word
context.
sentences.
is the
Now, if
context,
I
want to
could
though.
debate
just
this guy.
finish
I want to.
reading, that would
No,
be nice.
sir. No, sir. No, sir.
That
You
one
can't.
word is the
No,
context.
sir.
In a
Not
broader
doing it.
sense means it's not
Not doing it.
science.
In the broader
Yeah.
sense, man, do you know what that
So
means,
we're
yo?
going to through the exercise. That word in
It's
the
no
broader
need to go
sense.
to the end.
Okay.
Right, you ain't got to go no more because you just lost it. That word in the broader sense.
Yeah,
Do you know what?
but
Do you
The
know what that
broader
means?
sense.
No, no.
right.
Do you know
But
what
it
that
did
means?
say Kuhn
No.
would say yes, it is science, and that's
Nah,
my
man. In
point.
the broader
No, it
sense,
says in
nigga.
a broader sense.
One at a
It doesn't
time.
mean
Yeah,
in
no,
a
it
strict
said
That's Grant.
yes.
What
definition.
is
It
his
said it
definition?
also said yes. He would consider it,
Yeah, get him out of here,
Sunchild,
yo.
we're
and
not
y'all are afraid.
Sunchild, we're not arguing. We're not doing the back and forth. Nobody's afraid.
Right.
So slow it
We
down.
just
Let
not
us stay
letting you
Hey,
right
finish
tell him
here.
I want
yourself.
to chill out.
We're gonna stay right
Yeah,
here
slow it down.
in
Let
this
me finish
setting.
reading at least. Let me
No,
finish
no, no.
reading. Let me
Nah, we
finish
gotta
reading the
agree on that
paragraph
word.
at
Nah,
least.
we
There's
gotta agree
no
on that
need to
word.
read.
You don't
Nah.
It
need
No
says
to
need
in
read.
a
to read.
broader sense.
No
Yeah,
need to
That
ask
means it's not
questions. No need
equivalent.
to read.
Hey, you like
Come
the
on, man.
black cop
Come
that's
No.
showing
on,
off on the
man.
white cop. How you acting, bro? I'm just being
No, come
serious.
on, JJ. What you doing, man?
Come on, man.
JJ, you got the floor.
No, can
If
we
you
just
don't
ask
want
him what that word mean? Can I seriously? I want to make sure this is
JJ
really happening
stepped
right
away.
now.
yeah.
Not JJ, not JJ. Hey, Sunchild, what is the word when something says in a broader sense? What is meant by that? Seriously, bro. Like
It
at this
means
point,
it means in some sense it can be considered science. You're saying it can't be considered science.
in
Now,
some sense, hold
if
on,
I could
no, slow
continue
down,
reading,
slow
if I could
Slow
down,
continue
down,
reading,
slow
Sunchild.
if
down,
I
bro.
could
Sunchild.
continue reading,
Sunchild,
Sunchild.
Sunchild,
ChatGPT
Slow
will.
down.
Sunchild,
Slow,
Sunchild.
Sunchild. You're
Do
gonna
you know what
slow
that?
it
Do you know what
down.
that
You're gonna
actually
read,
means?
Now he
but you're gonna slow
equivocate.
it down.
Do you know what
One
that
at a
actually means,
time,
Joe?
please.
Do you know what that actually means, Joe? When you say in the broader sense. In the broader sense, Unc is the fastest man on this block. And the broad meaning that not really. I'm not really the fastest person, but people I've raced, I was a little bit fast. But
You
no,
might be the slowest person on the block.
well, I might be these. I think so these days. But
It
we
means it
simply,
depends on how you frame this question. That's what it means. In a broader
Brother,
sense means you got to set up
can
a
I just
different
finish
framework.
reading? Can I just finish?
You don't need to. That's what
yeah,
you don't
man,
get. You don't need
yeah.
to. The part you read already disqualified what your point
Yeah,
is.
why are you so
You
afraid of
got to
All right.
mistakes?
define it in a broader sense. We talking about
Sun,
science is science. We never talk about in a broader sense. When we talk
Okay.
about astrophysics, that's science. When you talk about how things
All
work,
right.
that's science.
Do
We
you
don't have
agree
to
that in
say
a
in a
broader
broader
Sunchild, don't
sense?
come off
sense.
All right.
mute until I tell you
We
to.
don't have to use
After Preem
qualifiers.
Do
finishes,
y'all
Grant is
agree that
gonna
in a
go.
broader sense?
So
Do not
Sunchild, stop,
come
stop,
off
stop.
mute until I
Sunchild,
tell
that's
you
it.
to. Wait a
That's
minute.
it.
I'm gonna moderate. After Preem, Grant is gonna go. Then you can respond, Sunchild, because it's getting messy. And this was a good conversation. Are you finished, Preem?
No, I can add a little bit.
Right,
I'm
'cause
going to
it's anonymous
restate it
guy.
because I think, but I'm gonna restate it because I think I was stepped on. It's always you ever notice when they talk about this science thing, it's always a qualifier. Oh, y'all talking about modern science. Oh, back in the day in a broader sense. Oh, it's the pillars. You notice how they always got an adjective in front of science. We tried to give them an adjective, but they rejected it. When we said proto-science, they got mad. Now all of a sudden they trying to introduce all of these qualifiers. That's the ad hoc logical fallacy. They keep changing the argument to suit their position instead of just dealing with the knowledge, with the facts on the ground. And now you can go, bro.
No, it'll be Grant's go this time. I think Grant wanted to say something.
Okay, my bad. Grant's my man. And
Yeah.
Grant, stop waking him up about my next presentation, bro. Shh.
Yeah. So, like,
Hey,
so I think
Grant,
what
before
you're
you leave, I need to ask you a couple questions. Hey, Grant, before you leave, I need to ask you a couple questions,
Do not
Sure.
interrupt. I will get to you.
sir.
So I mean, I think one of the things is, Sunshine, I think we already know where you're going to go. You're going to say, in a broader sense, sort of, he's saying that it's science. I mean, reading through it it's not going to change our view on it. And I think this is where we get into a struggle. We're not saying that you don't believe it, and nor do you have what you perceive as evidence for your position. So we're not in debate about that. And I think our willingness to allow for you to sort of read your position isn't, us just saying or not allowing you to just continue to read on, isn't us saying we're in denial. What we're saying is that we think we know where you're going, and we can already assume that it's going to end with, therefore, it's science. And what we're trying to do is interject and saying, here's this very key piece that you're now overriding, which is in the broader sense. And we're trying to get you to understand that if there are qualifiers in something, at some point, you have to at least acknowledge that you don't refer to broader for other sort of hard sciences, because you don't do that. And I think it needs to be stated. You can go look right now at any piece of data or publication, and it will completely say that you need a theoretical component in order for it to meet science. And Egyptian science, however, or knowledge, does not meet that criteria. And unfortunately, it doesn't matter what ChatGPT says. It only matters whether or not it fits within the framework of what Kant has written. And that is the only information that we can use. And I think we need to stay within that framework.
Great point. Cedric or Ankh, did you want to go?
Okay. Can I go after Ankh?
God Killer, you got the floor.
You said I get to go after Grant.
I'm going to let them go.
Why don't I get to go?
Because you're long-winded.
And we pseudo killers, so it's our show.
I got a couple questions for Grant.
Let me say this real fast. It's real fast. And that's reading to their biases. You should do that 20 years ago. It's not cute. It make you sound like a babbling infidel. And I'm not for it, but I don't want to mess up my good brother Cedric's show. So I'm just going to say that. Read and understand the words. If you got to define every word, bro. I'm done.
Okay. Wait. I was going to let Sunchild go because Sunchild needs to define that word. Then JJ, you have it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Sunchild, you got the floor. The mission is
clear.
The
idea of defining every word is a fallacy, an argument, whatever type of fallacy you want to call it. But there's something in that's that's just shifts the goalpost and moves it onto one particular word here and one particular word there, which is highly fallacious. But I think we ought to look at all the words in its proper context to get a full understanding of what the writer is trying to say, and not just focus in with our telescopes on one particular word. There's a fallacy. There's some type of fallacy that doesn't come to me that you're referring to when you focus.
No,
on
actually, the
words.
opposite is the fallacy. You're equivocating, right?
But if I could, what I would like to do, is to continue what I'm reading without being forced on any particular word.
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead, man. Let me see if you can pull it off, yo. Go ahead, pull it off.
I'm just saying, he jumping in all.
We can't hear you, Jay.
Hostile, trying to have a peaceful conversation. We're not all gonna agree.
Can't hear this, man. Yo.
Are you finished?
Are you going?
I'll say JJ.
Okay, go ahead, JJ.
That's the old JJ. I didn't calm down a lot.
Go ahead, JJ.
All right, but
why am I being muted? I haven't even said what I have. No
I thought you were gonna read
JJ,
it. Go ahead, man. Just read it.
I was muted before I even said anything.
Why not just read it,
go
man?
Ahead, Sunshine. My fault. Go ahead. You
all right. So allow me to read it. Allow me to read it.
Stop in that sentence, though. Stop in that sentence, though. We want to hear that one sentence.
So you're right. So the question is, would Kuhn consider traditional knowledge as science where Popper would not? And it says, Kuhn, it can count as science in a broader sense. For Thomas Kuhn, science isn't defined by one universal rule like falsifiability. Instead, it's defined by whether a community shares a working paradigm. So a body of traditional knowledge, for example, indigenous ecological knowledge or long-standing medical practice, might look scientific to Kuhn if it has a shared framework for explaining the world, accepted methods and practices, a community engaged in problem solving, quote unquote, normal science, and standards for what counts as success or failure. In that sense, Kuhn could treat some traditional systems as paradigm-governed knowledge systems, even if they don't resemble modern Western science. But there's a catch. Kuhn usually reserved the term science for traditions that support puzzle solving, allow cumulative work within a stable framework. So not all traditional knowledge would qualify, but some could, depending on structure and use. And then it goes into Popper and why Popper says no traditional knowledge could be considered science. And that's what I'm saying is if you're trying to bring up these Enlightenment or scientific revolution philosophers, you're still going to find the debate that we're having today. And they're pretty much saying the same thing, but with, fancier words than we use. And that's what I wanted to, and that's my and that's all. I think I can stop there. So go ahead.
My turn. Is Grant still here?
Wait, hold on, JJ. Hold on.
No, Cedric, it's order. Come on, man.
JJ, this is the JJ, I say hold on, just hold on. Because at this point, everyone is pretty much exhausted and there's no real emphasis and desire to respond to that nonsense, right? But you see again the complete straw manning of the whole argument right there. So we let him get it all out. And we're still exactly where we is.
Okay.
Go ahead, brother. Tell us what the straw man is and tell us what it is. You're only making a statement. Tell us, show us. Where was the straw man that I made?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. He threw that around word a lot.
Yeah, it's all a bunch of jargon to them. They just throw out these words and which is meaningless without actually demonstrating.
Sunshine, you don't just ramble away, Sunshine. Not on this platform. Please, okay. I'm doing that. You want to get
this one? I agree with what you do you agree with what he just read? I agree with what he just read.
I agree with everything he just read.
So what is going on here, man? Grant, do you agree with what he just read? Grant, do you agree with what he just read?
Yeah, let me. Come on, now. Stop hiding Grant from me. Stop hiding Grant.
No, just hold on.
Unbelievable.
Hold on. What would you say, Grant?
Yeah, I totally agree with what he read.
Right. So what the hell is going on here? That's what I'm saying. Why is it always this? It is something wrong, man. It is definitely. You know what? I understand. You cannot teach.
Tell us why you agree. Tell us further. Why do you agree? Why do you agree, Grant?
Hey, Sunshine.
What do you agree with?
Get it in. I'll go last, okay? But Grant, don't you leave.
My apologies, brother JJ. I apologize.
I want you to respond.
But I'd like to know what Grant agrees with and how it differs with what he said about traditional knowledge not being science. How can you agree with Kuhn?
Man, you asking the question, man.
And how can you agree with Kuhn and the PK?
Man, he just got to keep talking, man. I almost want to just put you off the show.
How do you agree with Kuhn and the PKs, Grant? Tell me how.
What? No, I agree with what you read. Agreeing with the PKs is agreeing with what you read, bro.
So the position you state is what I stated before you read what you read, correct? Is that ultimately he views ancient knowledge within a broad sense of science, correct? But it doesn't meet the standard of theoretical, which does not put it into what we consider as science today, the fundamentals of science, that he did not undermine sort of the Kantian theories. And therein lies the difference. So we can all agree that what you read is that if you broaden the notions of science and to some extent take away the theoretical aspects, Sure, you can put that in science. No one's disagreeing with it, but it does not meet the strict definition that even Kant would even agree with within his writings. So ultimately, what you read, it is true that within a broader sense, it can meet the threshold of science, but it does not meet the actual meaning of science, which is exactly.
It does not meet the limited Western. It does not meet the limited Western.
Do not
man.
just
That's
jump
not what
in
it
the fray.
said.
But
Can I go?
You still have one big.
Just jump in the fray.
Jay, stop
After you
fucking
respond,
putting on your white
I'm gonna
wig
give
for this guy.
someone the
Let
next
us
floor.
just
So
conversate,
JJ,
bro.
you got the floor now.
All right, thank you, brother. What's your name, Gary? I can't see I can't see right now.
Grant.
Let me ask you this: would you say that Thomas Kuhn was kind of biased? I want to read just what he said, and then I want your perspective on it. And then I also want you to reach out to me so you and I can have like a one-on-one conversation without everybody. My link, my email is in the chat, judahjeremiah12@gmail. All right. So Kuhn says this: only the civilizations that descend from Hellenistic Greece have possessed more than the most rudimentary science. The bulk of scientific knowledge is a product of Europe. No other place and time has supported the very special communities from which scientific productivity comes. So I say that because he left out a lot of things that's relevant to Africa. Historical achievements ignored. Also other cultures. Chinese astronomy around 1600 BC predicted the eclipse within 25 minutes, independent of Ptolemy and Copernicus. Achievements Kuhn's paradigm model doesn't accommodate well. Also, accumulative sciences. He left out biology and other fields, progressive, not by sudden revolutions, a pattern that fits many African medical and agricultural traditions better than Kuhn's physics-based model. So I say all that to say this. Would you say that Kuhn is kind of biased for even saying that most of the science comes from Europe, when we know that Greeks studied upon the feet of the Egyptians? Go ahead, you got the floor. Go ahead, Gary.
Grant, but it's. I guess I'm not sure. I don't.
Don't laugh for him. I want him to answer that. Don't hold his hand. This is pseudo killers.
Man, he got you easy.
Who's what? I guess I'm confused.
Here you go, Kate. You remind me of the dude Django. Hey, nah, chill out. You that Django guy when the white dude got shot.
JJ. Grant's on the big stage. Grant's got the floor. He's trying to respond.
Yeah, so I guess I'm not. I didn't come up to defend him, but yes, I think we can all agree that there were biases in many of the founding fathers, correct? In the scientific field, I don't think anyone. I don't think anyone who's credible would say that they didn't have blind spots, but that doesn't necessarily undermine the sort of pillars of what we use for understanding modern science.
So
hold on,
come on, man, y'all.
Hold on.
Questions. Hold on.
I'm recording this on another channel, so we're gonna see you caping. I got another question for him. So are you saying?
JJ,
hold on, JJ. Hold on. Uncle, respond.
In that statement that Sunchild read, it said, if you would find something like that. See, we missed that whole thing. That he's saying, if you find something like that, then you would broadly call it science. Did y'all miss that part? I didn't. So he's not saying that we may not find that one day, but as of now, we ain't found that. There's no theoretical that's not there yet. But that is okay, yo. That's not their world.
That's
it does
crazy.
Not have to be
That's
their world.
Crazy talk.
Yo, did you? Come on, yo. All right, you know what? It's time for me to tap out because I'm about to mess up.
No, go ahead. I dealt with that.
I'm just making a point. The statement that man read said, if we were to find it. Y'all didn't hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, you didn't understand that word? If we was to find it, don't mean they found it. Do it, Sunchild.
Nope.
Sunchild, does it mean that?
Like the articles that we shared recently.
Okay, so you
science, not black magic.
So
they found it.
No, we're
Yeah.
talking about what you
One
read,
at a
bro.
time,
We're
please.
talking about what you read, son child. We're not talking about nothing else, man. 1, 2, 3, bro. What you read said if we was to find it. Kuhn said that.
Oh, free your mind. I apologize. Free your mind. You actually gave me a compliment. My fault. Free mind. My
You know what, yo?
fault.
I'm gonna let y'all have this one, yo.
So
Man, listen.
I'm trying to be, just I want to. Oh, let me ask
JJ,
you,
you're not,
Cedric.
please,
Cedric,
I
stop
don't want
muting me,
people
bro.
getting
What are you
cut
doing?
off. JJ, you're cutting Unc
He
off
don't
in the
need
middle
you
of
to
his
cake for
sentence.
him, brother. Hey,
JJ,
Grant, take my email down so I can have a conversation. Because Cedric, you got that white wig
you
on.
don't
I'm
want to
finna go.
maintain
I'm finna
decorum.
go.
You
I'm
don't
gonna
want
get
to
you,
maintain
Cedric. I'm
decorum,
finna
right?
get your ass
You
right
don't want to
now.
maintain
And that ain't
decorum.
no Diddy. I'm finna go.
You don't want to
I'm
maintain
finna go.
decorum.
Bye bye.
All right, appreciate it. The
All right.
inability to maintain decorum is crazy. And
What I'm
again,
saying is, my
go ahead.
man, I think it was Sunchild, not sure who, he was talking about not defining terms. Us asking him to define the terms was the logical fallacy, when in fact the complete opposite is true. The equivocation logical fallacy says that up front, people want to have a discussion without defining terms. That is the logical fallacy. The fact that we want you to, we want to be on the same page, because the point of communication, the point of language is so that my thoughts can get to you and you can understand my thoughts and I can understand your thoughts. If we making up our own definitions, what if everybody is making up our own definitions, the words, what is exactly is the point of language? You defeat the whole purpose of language when you create your own definitions for words. In that article my man read, he read all of that. He ignored the first couple of sentences. He ignored them. He completely ignored them. He said, the man said, if you look at science as, and then he made up his own goddamn definition of science. We all could do that. But
You,
we
you
trying to
teaching fallacy.
communicate.
It's
We trying to
called
communicate not only with each other, but with the greater society. You look up the definition of science in the word in Merriam-Webster. It's a methodological way of gaining knowledge using the scientific method. That's really what it is. If it's not the scientific method, it's not science. That's just a fact. I don't know why we want to defeat against that. The white man said, well, he created the goddamn word. Science only goes back to the 13th century. Science, it originally did mean just knowledge, to know. But then later, once the scientific method was developed, the word science means obtaining knowledge through the scientific
Why that matter?
method. That's the literal definition of the word. It's really that simple. And trying to retrofit other things, man, it was natural philosophy. That's what it was. Yes, and we have never denied the fact that the foundations of the scientific method literally is natural philosophy. So yes, things that the Egyptians did, things that the Asians did, things that the Greeks did, things that the Persians did, the Muslims did. All of that stuff is incorporated into the scientific method. The white man just benefited because they're the youngest civilization on the planet. Asia is over China is about at 4,000 years now, going on 5,000 years, I think. Don't quote me, but Egypt, before they were conquered, was
Nah,
3,000
you right.
years.
You right. Yellow River.
Europe
Yellow
hasn't
River
even
was
been
Yeah,
running.
I
I'm
was
Europe only
referring
been
to the
running the world for a
appeal to
little bit over
definition, brother.
1,000. So
Yeah,
like,
I was referring to the
let
appeal.
like I understand we got an inferiority complex because our history wasn't taught to us. We were taught that we didn't do nothing. We all of our things was minimized. I understand that, but that doesn't mean that we have to exaggerate our contributions to the human family. We laid the foundations for this thing. We are the mothers and fathers of civilizations, literally. So why can't we be good with that? People took we can't be mad that people took the foundations that we laid and then advanced it. We can't be mad at that. But we don't got to exaggerate what we did. This whole thing exists because of us. That should be that. I don't understand why that's not enough. But I'm getting long-winded, so I'm just gonna let it go.
Sanjay, you got the floor.
Yeah, I was
You got
referring
the
to
floor,
the
Sanjay.
I was referring to the appeal to definition or the etymology fallacy. That's where you focus in on one word in a full paragraph or context and you miss the whole context. Like saying you miss the forest for the trees and you're focusing on one definition. And that's kind of a fallacious argument. And that's what we're doing with this idea when I spoke about the broad sense of science. And you're missing the idea that in the broad sense, it can be considered science, where you guys, do you agree that in a broad sense, can we call traditional indigenous knowledge science in a broad sense?
Okay,
You
so
agree
That's
with
now
that?
not
I'm
the
gonna
context
I'm
of the
gonna deal with
conversation we
now.
had.
This is my turn. Now I'm gonna deal with Sanjay. Because
Can you answer
Sanjay
the question though? Do you agree with
Sanjay,
that?
So I'm gonna deal with Sunchild now. You see, this is the fallacious nature of Sunchild, and that's why I allow him to do this, because it gives you an opportunity to understand his psychological profile. What he's doing is a classic example of what Hume is talking about, the equivocation fallacy. And he's hitting you with a dose, like he's mixing the drink with a little bit of the Texas shooter fallacy. It is clear to see. First of all, we accept the broad definition of the word. Once you accept the broad definition of the word, it has a particular context and it has a particular synonym, a synonym value which makes clarity in the conversation. When we look at that, we're talking about knowledge, science in its broadest sense. No one can disagree because that is a fifth definition of the word. And then within the same conversation, he is trying to apply the first definition of it right there in real time. Now, I don't know if it's disingenuousness, what is underlying reason for him attempting to poison the well. But after you explain this one, twice, three, four times, it is either your inability to compute, to comprehend, or to grasp these notions, which means you should say outside of the realm of this conversation, or you have a particular objective, you have an agenda that you need to put forward. Either way, you are losing. Once we establish that Thomas Kuhn does not work outside of the realm of methodological naturalism, his arguments are within the realm of Kant and Popper. He is discussing the narrative that exists within presentism and anachronism. He is thus discussing these nuances. That is what he's doing. However, at no point in time does he undermine the scientific process. He is identifying specific aspects. If you look at product X or culture Y, you are seeing systematic application of these principles, right? In the other culture, you are seeing less application of these principles. So we need to objectively assess each society within the framework of its cultural context. This is what Kuhn's underlying message is, a philosophical one. So now, Sunchild is up here attempting to do these two things, which we're seeing Reggie doing, which we're seeing everybody doing, the equivocation fallacy and the collapsing into a linear thinking process. They want to say they had a little bit of science, and what we got now is more science. They do not want to acknowledge the epistemic rupture and the philosophical framework in which you engage with data. When a layman looks at a glass of water, he sees a glass of water. When a scientist looks at a glass of water, he sees H2O. There's a whole nother level of comprehension behind the same object, a whole nother level of comprehension. And we just need to acknowledge that. You don't go from little science, little knowledge, to big knowledge. What we got, no. That's a fallacious position that's creating linearity when we've gone to over 10 episodes, which is clearly defining science as a way of thinking. The data and collection of data, observation, systematic approach to life, being scientific is an endemic part of human nature. You cannot separate that aspect from human nature. That's why the philosophical framework, the manner in which you engage with nature based on your principles, your customs, and your practices have been the rule of order for the whole world for the majority of time. And it would have remained so unless and until you had world travel, whereby your epistemic regime fell apart. The way you engage with reality flipped upside down, turned on its head. It is simple to understand, so I do not understand the conflation and the confusion in the conversation. Everybody is flim-flamming with the science all over the place, and instead of providing clarity in a community that is already on doesn't have this within its wheelhouse, instead of supporting the conversation, there's a consistency to undermine it, pretending y'all love Africa and discrediting the continent, discrediting these people in cultural systems and the cultural container. This is counterintuitive. It's crazy. It doesn't make sense. Somebody take the floor.
I got it. Man, really, what this breaks down to is literally a semantic argument. Because if you define science as just knowledge, we can't argue with you. There's no argument. We agree with you. If you just say that people that had knowledge and then applied it, and you define that as science, we don't have no problem with that. But the problem is y'all are taking what we are saying out of context. Like I said earlier, it's equivocation. It's a failure to define terms up front before we have a discussion. That's where the confusion is lying. Then you pile on your equivocation with a straw man, because now you're using science in a way that we aren't, and saying that we're anti what you're saying. So the whole argument is a complete logical fallacy from the foundations to the top. That's really what it, and it's like as many as times as we saying it, that's how we're using science. They keep trying to give us sources that redefine science. It's like we're never going to come together if we can't agree on the basic definitions of what we're talking about.
Sanjay, you want to respond? You hearing me?
Sure, and sure, and I think we're going in circles. So I guess I'll just say I think you guys disagree with not with me, but with Thomas Kuhn and his interpretation of what science is, and we can add Thomas Kuhn to the list of I'm sure there are other philosophers in that time who sided with Kuhn and others with Popper.
He's attempting to create a dichotomy.
We actually agree with him. If under his paradigm, yes, we agree with him.
I don't think
you're creating a dichotomy that doesn't exist.
But I think you're agreeing with me. You're in essence disagreeing with Thomas Kuhn.
Yes. You're creating a dichotomy that doesn't exist. And again, yet more straw manning from my good brother. Grant, you got the floor.
Yeah, I mean, if you can define what Kuhn was saying, correct? If you're in essence, you read what the synopsis, correct? What is perceived as where he would land. In essence, if you could describe what you believe is Kuhn's sort of theory, correct? Sort of his methodology, and then could show how it meets those standards, then yes, we could agree with you. But taking a synopsis and then saying, well, therefore it does agree, I don't know if that meets the standard, but we all do agree that if using that synopsis, it stands within the broad sense of science. But then to try to present an argument where you're saying, well, you guys don't agree with Thomas Kuhn. That does not, no one has said that at all. And again, when we're talking about straw manning, it is again putting forward a concept that is clearly not true, that no one has said, and then arguing against something that was never said. And all we're saying is that given the context by which you read and what you read, we agree with you that if you broaden the notions of science, sure, go for it. But if you were to lay out the theories, correct, his methodology, and if you think it fits within that methodology and you provide the evidence for that, then yeah, we can argue around that. But until then, there's just really no argument, and there's no reason to continue this.
Thank you, Grant. Roy Chess, welcome to the platform. What it do, my brother? You got the stage. Welcome.
Peace, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to come up. I came up because Juju insisted. So I'll just be brief, and because I kind of agreed with the rest of the panel that that phraseology, in a broad sense, science. I was in agreement, kind of, at first before he read what he read, because I came up a little late, so I didn't hear the first reading of it. But after I heard the brother read something, it didn't seem to me that he was using his opinion. He was reading something about a disagreement about two authors, and it was Kuhn and someone else. So what I recall is that he was saying that Kuhn is using that word science in a slang sense, where like kind of everything is a science. But then the modern description of science is like the scientific method, and you saying science is science, that's the other person's definition, right? So there is a miscommunication here. It's not the equivocation fallacy, because Sunchild was not speaking of his own words. He was speaking about an author speaking about another author. So that doesn't mean Sunchild, is committing a fallacy. It's just the author, two authors.
Sunflower. You got the name right, Sunflower.
Is it Sunflower or Sunchild?
Sunflower.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sunflower then. So I thought it was, I thought it was wrong for him at first, but I didn't hear what he read. But once he read it, he's not talking about his own view about what he read. He's talking about an author referring to another author, I should say. And that's not a fallacy. Now, if anybody's committing the fallacy, it would be Thomas Kuhn, not the speaker. So like at this point, it will be attacking the messenger here.
No, that's not what we're doing. That's not what it was. We said we agree with what he read. Yeah, that's
so. This is the error you're making in that analysis. Sunchild is using a particular narrative to fuel his opinion and misrepresenting what the author is doing. So when we read the authors, we understand their arguments from both perspectives, right? Using the word science in a broader sense to be much more inclusive, right? And not relegate certain indigenous practices to purely mythicism. At the same time, he says you have to have specific qualifiers to actually count as quote unquote knowledge. He is using science in its broadest sense. When Sunchild gets into the deliberation, he collapses this word into a singular definition, not taking its broader and its more stricter definition into account. That's the equivocation fallacy that Sunchild is committing. Every time we agree, science in this context equals knowledge, which we agree to. You see the equivocation fallacy when he does the bait and switch and then does the less science than what you have now. So he is quantifying and then he codifies it by actually talking about empiricism, observation, negating the framework required for it to be science. There is a particular framework. So we do acknowledge in traditional knowledge, we even acknowledge the empiricism of these systems. However, when we're talking about science, it's a particular philosophical framework for investigating reality. And why it is so? Because it has produced reliable results that are universal and not specific to one particular culture. The universality of science versus the indigenous nature of traditional knowledge makes the two unequatable when you're trying to use the word out of its context and collapsing it in a single definition. That is the equivocation fallacy that Sunshine is committing.
I didn't hear him commit the equivocation fallacy. So just so we're clear, normally the equivocation fallacy has a context as well. And equivocation occurs when someone, let's say I am having a conversation with you. Matter of fact, I can give the Constitution as a good example. When it says all men are created equal, right? Is it talking about just the men and not the women, or are we talking about human beings, right? So when you can do that, that's the equivocation fallacy, right? So if you say one word and then I say the other one, whichever one you say, I say the other one, that's the equivocation fallacy. So it would require me to use the same word in a different context in the same conversation.
Thank you very much. You just made my point. That's exactly what he's doing.
Okay, respectfully.
But I didn't hear him do that. So if you're saying that that's a personal,
you don't understand the information or you wasn't listening, but that's exactly what he is doing.
No, I didn't hear him do it. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying I came in late.
That is exactly
see, and that's the thing. That's the thing, bro. Not only did you come in late today to this particular live, you're coming in late to the whole conversation. This is a conversation that we've been having for a couple of months now at this point.
Oh, okay.
So now he's injecting that as trying to counter what we've been saying, but his counter doesn't address it. It changes the definition of science. That's the equivocation, because by saying I'm talking about science in a broader sense, that's the equivocation, because we aren't talking about science in the broader sense. We're talking about science in the literal sense. And so the equivocation is you're bringing the broader sense conversation into a debate or a discourse that we aren't having. We're dealing with the strict definition of science, not the broader sense. So that's the equivocation, and that's the context of why it's equivocation, because it's a broader discussion than just this live, which you admit you're late to. You're not only late to the live, you're late to the broader conversation.
Yes, I would agree with that. Then there's no problem. I would agree with that. But I only brought that up because I didn't hear him say the same word in two different contexts in the same conversation. So you're just giving me awareness of that now, but he didn't commit it like literally while I was here. So that's why I only push back and saying it's not the equivocation fallacy, because usually that's in the same conversation, not over time, right? So it would have to be the exact same conversation for the equivocation fallacy to occur.
Oh, well, life happens before you existed, brother. So before you was here, we was having a conversation. So I hear what you're saying, but that doesn't disqualify the point that we're making on the broader conversation that we are having today and that we've been having.
Can y'all hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the flow.
So I actually defined the word science in the first demonstration I did. I actually did a presentation, and I said the historical analysis, right? Basically, scientific thinking all the way to modern science. So we already know we're getting to modern science, okay? Not along the way, not in the beginning, but a cumulative knowledge all the way to modern science. So we was always talking about modern science, and everybody knows this in this conversation. The trick is to do what he did. He brought information that's talking about an aspect, a piece of broader sense. That's what he's doing. And now that I see it's a dirty trick, that's why I don't even like them on here like that, bro. Because at the end of the day, they're disingenuous. They're not having honest conversations. They trick the listener. This guy is a very intelligent guy. I've heard him speak before. Very intelligent guy. And the fact that he could trick him is wild to me. Because we ain't even talked. The conversation ain't about a fallacy. The conversation is about trickology foolology, nutology at the end of the day. That this man continues to make indigenous African people in the damn Stone Age have something they couldn't have had and didn't even need. That he disrespects African people and not telling people what they really had, which put them on the level of quote unquote before the Europeans came talking that civilization nonsense. So I don't appreciate it, and it's a bunch of bull crap. That's where I'm at with it. Point blank, he's a nut. And I'm saying it because he's doing it on a regular basis. Call it what you want to call it. He's doing it on purpose, and he's absolutely scamming the conversation. I'm done.
That's the fact. It's a whole point of people being disingenuous just to be anti for whatever they don't like, the way it was delivered, who delivered it, whatever the reasoning behind it is. And the whole conversation, and this has been the nature of the whole conversation. We literally talking about two different things. And people keep imposing their definition on what we're talking about. Now, if you if you want to call natural philosophy science, then go for it. Go for it. Then, yeah, we agree with y'all then. But you got to change the definition of the word, or you got to use the archaic definition of the word. You got to use the definition that ain't nobody using no more. We talking about the modern sense. We in 2026. We using English in 2026. When people say science, they are talking about the scientific method, unless you're using it in a different context, like the science of cooking or the science of art, the science of, you know what I mean, the science of music. You know, like, unless you're talking about it in that sense. But if you're talking about it in a literal sense of gaining knowledge in the natural world, that's the definition that we're talking about.
Yes, but what he read was Thomas Kuhn, wasn't it? Wasn't
if I do a presentation,
yes, but
I'm
that's not
he
read it as a counter to what we're saying.
Yes,
he was trying to counter what we are saying. That was the whole point. That's the context of the conversation, bro.
Yeah, that's why we say we agree with what he read.
Even in this conversation, right?
So, we were having. So ask him that though, Cedric. Ask him that. Ask the brother based off what he read. Why did he think the whole panel said we agree with that? Because they used the word science in a broader sense. He couldn't understand the context in that.
I understand. I agree with you guys that that's if it's either science or it's not science. So in a broader sense, but I thought it was his words. So that's why I was.
No. It was Kuhn's words, and we all said we agree with Kuhn because we understood the way he used it. We tried to help him, and he just threw tomatoes at us, and he messed you up. You're a very intelligent gentleman. I appreciate you actually coming. I've conversated with you before on other platforms. I appreciate you actually tapping, brother. You know what you're talking about. That's for sure.
Don't believe the hype.
So my brother, the last month, so we've established what science is, the scientific method, and I've always focused on the fact that science comes out of philosophy. It's a branch of philosophy to investigate the natural world by means of empiricism. That's a branch of philosophy. You can go and stay in the metaphysical bag all day, right? But this way of thinking produced a branch of empiricism and a method in which we investigate the natural world. So to have this conversation in its proper context, you equate science to methodological naturalism, the philosophical framework in which it operates. This series, today is the culmination when we talk about Kant and Popper, who gave that final framework its solidity. It was also important within the context of the community to explain that the epistemic rupture was within the scientific revolution, and how these two things played a crucial role, how they developed. When we're having this conversation that we're developing the framework, and that's why my question to him was pivotal. Does Kuhn operate within the parameters of methodological naturalism? The moment you say yes, when he uses the word science in its broader context, I can follow the conversation. When you try to convolute the word, collapse the synonym, and use them interchangeably within one conversation, you are creating confusion by equating, by doing that false equivocation. You're collapsing the definition of the word into one, and you're doing it on purpose to give some sort of scientism or presentism, some type of esteem to a time and period where the concept of investigating the world like that was not necessary, was not concerned about it. People were living practical basis. Your technology and your science was geared to you being able to survive and flourish in your natural environment. It is by means of a 2,000-year-old epistemic regime collapsing. You can imagine having a map with 3 continents on it, and this is your belief system, and within 24 hours, all of that is shattered. From one day to the next, an average sailor with no education and rotten teeth in his mouth knows more and understands more about reality than the establishment. This is the framework in which this conversation is happening. So to interject Thomas Kuhn in the middle of this conversation when we're talking about the pillars of establishing it, and when I ask you, does he fit within that pillar? The whole conversation becomes non sequitur and not relevant to the conversation we have. Why we engage with Thomas Kuhn already is because we dealt with presentism and historical anachronism. And these are the individuals, along with people like Francesca Rochberg, etc., who are moving the change in how we interpret and interact with these civilizations and their culture. No more in this derogatory state of mind. This is the position of the pseudo killers and the community of skeptics. This is what we have been bringing forth in the community. So now to deal with that level of disingenuousness is now you understand the full picture, I hope, my brother. You have the floor. Roy? Roy, you want to respond?
My fault. I was having technical difficulties. I was on mute and I couldn't get off. And for some reason, my mouse wasn't working. Yeah, so that sounds like it's a prior history to me. So I wasn't aware of that. So that's why I was commenting the way I was commenting. But now that you laid it out like that, I can see where you're coming from and why you were doing what you were doing. But I mean, originally I thought the way you were thinking before that, if you using that broader sense, then it's not science. Then yeah, that's not the definition that was being used, and then you're introducing it. I get what you're saying now.
Yeah, and that's why we stand so firm, right? Because you fully understand this conversation, and if you get that snapshot and not understand the full context and the confusion he's creating, right? So right now you get the full picture. It's not even an argument anymore, but that is the type of confusion these individuals try to create on these platforms, and that's why I use them to dissect them, not letting those illusions or those fantasies run rampant. We keep you right here. We put you in the lab and we dissect you. We illustrate why your thinking and reasoning is fallacious. But I appreciate the pushback and in terms of providing clarity and highlighting the reason why we do this. This is a perfect example. Mm-hmm. Grant, you want to say something?
Yeah. So I know you came out at the end or close to the end because you didn't hear a lot of it, but I want to just make sure, just understanding what in essence, listening to someone's words is probably not always the most useful thing because there may be some other piece of information. So I'm going to read you something so we can, it's Kuhn's model, correct? It's whether or not it's a paradigm shift versus tradition, normal science versus practical application, and theoretical crisis versus cumulative knowledge. Within this, the paradigm shifts. If Sunflower or Sunchild had read Kuhn's model and then applied what he was thinking to that model, correct? Then we could say, okay, the Egyptian science fits within it. But Kuhn in himself pretty much says, he argues that it has to be revolutionary and it has to be an episodic shift between the theoretical frameworks Conversely, he believes that Egyptian science should be characterized as extreme stability and traditions within its methods remain consistent for centuries rather than experiencing paradigm shifts. Because Egyptian science lacked that paradigm shift, and this is part of Kuhn's model, it cannot be considered science within his model for science. Any other source that you're using, like ChatGPT, cannot overwhelm Kuhn's actual statements, correct? Or what he put in paper under his model. And I think this is where we get lost. Reading ChatGPT summaries is not the same thing as understanding the models by which we're attempting to discuss. And so I think this is where we get lost in the sauce a lot of times in these conversations. And so, yes, we're responding to the person putting forward the question, in this case, Sunchild, but we still have to be responding around the nature of the actual model versus what that person is attempting to argue, which was not Kuhn's model, correct? Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if he's misrepresenting it, then it's a problem, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
I also want to make one more thing to JJ. I appreciate your focus on me. I am not says massa, number one, however you say that. And if you were inferring that I'm white, I'm not that either. And but I do appreciate that you can appreciate that I that you find me as a worthy opponent. But and I think CED and I have a mutual respect for each other, and I think that's something important in this community. That as we discuss what I think are highly important things for the African American community, one of the things I think is the utmost importance is showing respect to people on the panel and being able to articulate a position, wait for the person to provide a response, and then respond in kind. And so I attempt to show everyone the kind of respect that I expect to be treated. So I just think I wanted to clear that up as well.
Appreciate that, Grant. Yeah. It is the low hanging fruit, right? I'm accused of using these large words, and you're accused of being sounding too Eurocentric. So we share in that dilemma, in that dichotomy. So don't worry about it. Take it with stride. It's the low hanging fruit. There are certain terminologies and certain language that it's necessary to use in these conversations because, again, my brother Roy here is fully aware, and the way he articulated the position we were discussing means he's abreast of the subject matter. But what Sunchild is doing is creating even a confusion in someone who clearly understands the subject matter. Now, my brother Roy, do you see the consequences of allowing these individuals to run rampant?
Yes. Yeah,
I mean, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Again, I appreciate you jumping up on the panel. It was a moment of clarification. It is what the setting is meant for. We apply methodological naturalism as a foundation to promote scientific literacy in the community. We are never open, never closed to any type of constructive engagement. But what you saw a specimen, right? And it seemed as if he was being attacked. No, what you've seen is a clinical dissection of a specimen. Far too often they try to use these platforms to derail the conversation. So no, we take a different approach. That's why it seems so harsh. We stop you where we recognize the fallacious arguments you're making, force you to correct them, and then continue. Far too often people get to build their straw mans, and now I'm down a rabbit hole, or I'm climbing out of a well that I never intended to be in. So I do not allow that in the conversations. It seems harsh, but if you understand now the parameters we're operating in, it's a necessary component.
I would agree with that. I think if someone is speaking and they make a false statement, there should be correction. I would agree with that. They shouldn't be able to speak for 10 minutes and you got to wait to correct them. I would agree with you.
Yeah.
There should be a way to correct it before they get 10 minutes in.
So you see how completely non sequitur even having the discussion about Thomas Kuhn is within the context of what we're doing over these two series. First, what is science? We broke it down. Ong talked about the history of science, the chronological steps. Now we approach this from different aspects. The final mix in this is to affirm and solidify the fact that we're talking about a philosophical framework. So we talk about the philosophers that established the framework. Now, in these epochs, with the Hume, for example, if you delve into philosophy, you are going to find counter arguments. You're going to find a whole philosophical back. Now you're taking the intent and the objective of this series out of its parameters. That's why my first question again: does Thomas Kuhn operate within the framework of methodological naturalism? If he does, then it is easy to follow the conversation. He is not blanketing the ancients as well. He's not saying, well, everything they thought was knowledge or we can consider scientific. No, we need to engage with this framework properly. These are the parameters, these are the things that we are going to look for to quantify and qualify as knowledge. What type of knowledge? They're indigenous or they're in their own epistemic regimes, right? It is not outside of their epistemic regime that we are going to observe them anymore. This is the underlying foundation of that philosophy. How do we really quantify and qualify these cultures and these epistemic regimes? Far too often, we have this scientism or presentism approach to them, whereby terms like pre-science and proto-science are all kind of this weird stuff is being used. We're going to use science in its broadest context, and we're going to respect these people and their cultural within their cultural container or their epistemic regimes. That is the point he's trying to make. But bring him into this conversation is to create the confusion that you yourself were experiencing while we were doing this exercise. The question is a philosophical one to me. Why the attempt to undermine what we're doing?
Let me make a point real quick, Cedric. I have a profound respect for African culture, and has always been my thing. Hopefully, it'll be my legacy, at least on YouTube legacy, that African Americans and African people abroad in the diaspora will have a profound understanding on what their ancestors did, not through the lenses of African Americans, not through the lenses of those who want to cheat and rob us of our culture, but allow the ancestors to speak for themselves. We sit in a unique position where now we have people amongst us that can read the text. We can translate the text, and we can actually find out, what was their knowledge? What was they doing? What allowed them to reach the heights before Europeans come in and start making up words like civilization, and they the only ones that fit into civilization. That was a bunch of nonsense, made up word. But in reality, I think it's just super important to know what was their system that allowed them to build and construct civilization, right? That wasn't perfect, that wasn't void of crime, but it would at least reach the heights of humanity, where you could have valuable offspring, deal with the criminals, deal with laws and rules and regulations, and build strong communities. I think let the ancestors speak. We need to stop looking at it from an African American viewpoint. Oh, the Egyptians is black, the Hebrews is us. That's an African American perspective. What did those people say? How did they reach? How did they learn about math? What was the system for getting there? What methods did they have that allowed them to achieve some of the first early inventions in tool making, right? Calendar systems. What was they doing? What was they saying when they built their own cosmology that was unique to their culture? This is my hope. This is my dream. Not to apply something, not to look back in time and apply something to them that did not exist, not to be like the colonial powers that came in and said these people had absolutely nothing and used the fact that they didn't have their methodology and say, see, they not up to par. No, that's never been my thing. But you know what? My YouTube enemies will use that as a springboard to claim that we're marginalizing indigenous cultures, yo. I don't respect it, and that means they ran out of bullets, bro. So I'm gonna just say that, and then Did the chips fall? Where the chips gonna fall?
Yeah. Now we're rounding up the show. Preem, you got the floor. Any last closing statements?
I was on mute. That's how I was eating a little bit. But no, man, my thing is this. At the foundation, this whole discourse has been disingenuous. It's been full of logical fallacies. It's been full of misrepresentation, what people have been saying. And I can't ignore the fact that it's a big part of who delivered the message and the way they delivered it. That has a lot to do with the response that everybody got, because it's like it's literally, man, when I look around, and I'm not even plugged in like that, when I just look around, everybody, all of them is talking about this. All of them is talking about this, and they just trying to, and like I said, the main thing is they appeal to emotion. We didn't have something, they sound like the white people, they Eurocentric. And it's like, it's crazy when you think about it, but I guess it's par for the course. But that's the age-old fight, you know what I mean, between, you know, the theists and the atheists, between the traditionalists and the scientific. That's just the nature of the beast, and that's where we at with it. So, you know.
It is what it is. It is what it is. Roy, I'm gonna give you the floor one more last time. I appreciate you jumping on the panel. You're always welcome, my brother. CED Talks is usually gonna be from Monday to Friday, 4:30 in the afternoon. I hope I see you around. I appreciate your contribution to the discussion. You got the floor, my brother.
Thank you for having me. This is actually, I think, my first time. I don't think I've been here before, but I would say it's my first time. I could be wrong, but
Nope,
if I have been here,
it's your first time.
Yeah, if I've been here, I don't remember. It was a while ago, but I would say it's my first time. So far, I enjoyed it, so I would probably come back. You know, you allowed me to come up without really knowing me, so I appreciate that, and hopefully I can sit back and contribute some other time. You know, I don't know what else to say, because the brief introduction about the something I didn't understand fully. That's why I came up.
I appreciate that. That's what the platform is for. It is to help the community grow. Scientific literacy is what we promote. We're not about winning. We're not about being right. We're not about winning. We're more about being right. So if you're wrong, if I'm wrong, I would stand corrected. I'll do an episode on the corrections made, and so that's what we always stood for. We have no ego in the game. Science is undefeated. Cedric can be wrong. We always say that. Grant. As always.
Real quick. Hey, brother, you remember me? I think we was on the Debate Titan show or something like that one time. And
yes.
You were speaking, and everybody went against you, and I went against you. Then I stopped and I said, "Well, hold on." I listened to you. And I said, "You know what? I changed my mind. I think he's right." You remember that day, right?
Yes, sir. I do.
That's the type of platform we got. So I can start off disagreeing with you, hear more about what you're saying, and immediately change my position based off more available data. That's how we do that around here, brother. I just wanted to bring that out. Appreciate you.
Great point, God killer. Grant, you got the floor. Any last closing statements? Always appreciate your contribution. Pseudo Killer Army.
No, great show. I think I've learned an extraordinary amount, listening to you the last couple of days. I think everyone should take this information, go read these amazing philosophers for yourself, become acclimated with their methodologies and with their models. It makes it easier for you to combat people who have views that do not align with what they were thinking. And I think it's easy for us to often think that the loudest is the person that's correct, when only the person who is correct is correct. And the one who's actually sticking to the artifacts is providing you the information. And this is something I really do think as African Americans, as we sort of move forward, sort of being able to sort of wade through a lot of these things that are coming at us. I think the important part of us sort of recapturing our own identity is making sure that it's based on a foundation of facts, not on a foundation of feelings or what makes us feel good. It should make us feel smarter. It should make us feel inspired for greatness beyond today. It should be most certainly it should be forward looking. And it shouldn't have to always look backwards to antiquity in order to gain our own identity. And so I do encourage everyone to gather the information themselves so they can come armed and ready to discuss these and not just rely on others to tell them. So thanks again, guys.
Thank you, Grant. It's always a pleasure. I appreciate that. God Killer.
Yeah, I just appreciate everybody stopping through, man. Appreciate the wealth of knowledge being shared on the program. I like to always say, you can't keep it unless you give it away. And we definitely giving it away, man. So I appreciate all the stand-up individuals that joined the server, all the ones that dove into this thing that we call education, right? That are fearless in their approach to tell the truth, no matter if it hurts. We will be having a doctor that will be coming on Saturday at 8 o'clock, right? It's going to be a great program. I suggest you tune in early, right? It's going to be good. All right. It's going to be off the chain. And, we appreciate the brother and what he's doing. And he shares our same sentiments. So at that point, that's a win-win for us. I'm also having a special guest Thursday. All right. Tune in at 6 o'clock. Now, tune in at 6 o'clock. So I'm not saying no names on purpose, right? Because my enemies will use it against me. So just tune in and check out the show.
Thank you, God Killer. Yeah. What can I say? We don't forget tomorrow, 6 o'clock. Tune in. We got a special guest. Y'all know the pseudo killers community of skeptics format. We fight the battles, we put it down, and then we expose our own self to that peer review, where we put the PhDs and the top dogs in front of y'all, and have at it. So we are exposed. All our information is out there, and you can do that assessment in real time. That is a clinical process that we just simply do. We function on the basis of methodological naturalism. The objective is scientific literacy. I hope going through this series that I humanize these individuals, these names are being used, and that is the objective here. Change the lexicon. Once you interject new terminologies into the lexicon, you force the brain to engage with things on a different level. Now, not everyone's going to agree. That's not the idea. But the conversations are happening within a different paradigm, a paradigm that is going to afford for growth. Once you put the pressure on any ore, the imperfections rise to the surface the quickest. And we are going to continue to apply the pressure in this community so the imperfections rise to the surface. You can see them clearly. In terms of content, we are going to use this to our advantage. We are going to isolate their claims, and we are going to put them through the scientific process. There's no way that you are going to escape this paradigm shift in the community. The epistemic rupture is here, and there's no way back. The old guard is on its way out, and they are fighting and flickering like what happens just before a flame candle loses its last source of oxygen. We continue to fight the good fight. We continue to put in this work. Again, thanks to the God Killer and Kickdoor Kent for creating this space for me to do what I do best. This is how I engage with the structure and the format. Again, the attempt is to elevate the level of the conversation, elevate the level of discourse. The hate and the attacks come with the territory. I don't take them personal, but when you throw your guns, it says we are where we're supposed to be. Once again, I want to thank everyone for coming out today. Thank you for the support over the last couple of weeks. The fact that you are being here consistently has also provided me with the confidence to do what I do. Maybe not tomorrow, but stay tuned for the final recap where we add all the dates, chronological dates, where we solidify the duration and the length of this epistemic rupture, where we demonstrate factually that this thing took time. It developed over centuries, and the fact that science is this self-correcting system which allowed us to understand the world we live in, reality, right? There's no way around it. There's no way back. The shift is here, and it is what it is. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the pseudo killers. Look forward to more programming. We got the lab Saturday night. We're working on a Sunday morning program where we have different types of conversations. Stay tuned. The pseudo killers is here. We're not going nowhere. And thank you for all the support. With that, let me take us out with some music. I think this one will be fun, right? Before we go. Reggie!
What's your analogy? Seems to be the question round here lately. Every discussion rooted in blackology, fueled by the lack of integrity. Case in point, the so-called strategy, misleading the people, high-level foolery, smash, come of us, king's monologue. It must be a conspiracy. Nostalgia got them stuck in the past, always reliving history. Ask Dr. Ben and Clark, say their names, here's our spark. All one big fantasy, smoke and mirrors, only confusion, no clarity. The nigga pro, no crazy. Van Serma and Rashidi. Now they teaching God energy, but that's another story. Reggie out here seeking glory. For him it's about his legacy. Highest little movement ended prematurely. Reggie was denied his opportunity. He signed at the feet so surely. It was meant to be his destiny to the king of psychology. That's your ideology. Seems to be the question round here lately. Confirmation bias, poor research quality, cherry picking data. That's a tragedy. Call yourself a scholar, then it's a travesty. You know it's right. Keep it trying to make science black. Who's confuses science with technology? Reggie, is this your ideal? Everything aflame for blackology. A black city plan. Let me not digress. Don't wanna get lost in that mess. Even the skin map, Reggie tried to contest that affected him emotionally. Reggie came loaded with more pseudo foolery. Yet another battle he lost horribly. Obviously, Reggie, you're not ready. Ideology got you looking stupid, silly. Squints his eyes. Where he lies, if the look is ugly, you will never beat me. I got no emotions, no ideology.
All right, folks. Thank y'all for being here. He not playing. I'm out.
This that CED talk, yeah, we said it straight. Cut through the noise, elevate the debate. No pseudo talk, no foggy claims. Just evidence-based when we build these frames. CED talks, yeah, clarity first. If it ain't got method, it probably won't work. From ancient knowledge to modern science, we draw that line, that clear defined. They say the ancients had science. Hold up. Pause. Knowledge ain't the same as methodological laws. Observation, yeah, but control tests rare. No predictive models, you gotta be fair. We respect the past, but we keep it exact. Precision matters when you deal with facts. Astronomy grew, astrology split. One stayed empirical, one lean myth. The shift came through naturalistic method. Just and revise, that's how we embed it. Not culture bound, not tied to a place. It's a universal tool for the human race. This guy said talks, yeah, he said it straight. Cut through the noise, elevate the debate. No pseudo talk, no foggy claims. Just evidence-based when we build these frames. CED talks, yeah, clarity first. If it ain't got method, it probably won't work. From ancient knowledge to modern science, we draw that line, that clear defiance. They blur definitions, start moving the goalposts. Turn fried to a claim that don't hold close. Science ain't on, this a process refined. Independent of culture, space and time. You can't redefine it to fit identity. That's how you lose all epistemic integrity. We test every claim, we don't just believe. If it can't be verified, we don't receive. From early observers to labs today, it's rigor and doubt that paved the way. Not name dropping scholars to win a debate, but data and method that validate. So what's your ideology? That's who to ask. But truth ain't decided by the loudest class. We question it all, no sacred ground. If it don't hold up, we break it down. This that CED talk, yeah, we live in direct. No fear in the facts, just intellectual respect. No more, no mirror, no fantasy, just truth, logic, and consistency.
Subject identified, literature cross-referenced. Pseudo killer, the lab is open. The incision is precise, I don't argue with advice. I just paralyze the fallacy and sacrifice the highs. Check the methodology, through the epistemology, through the intellectuals or the cultural and apology. High intensity, high contrast, dissecting the forecast. Looking through the lens where the shadows of the ghost past. Verify the source, man, I'm staying on the course. Applying academic pressure with a concentrated force. Through the reticle extended on the error in your premise. Clinical with lyric, I'm a scientific menace. This is the lab where the data gets heavy. Hold the scalpel steady and the panel is ready. Dissect the claim, then recite the publication. High intensity truth, surgical observation. Pseudo killer on the track. Yellow, red and a black. If you're coming with a fiction, there is no coming back. Now the footage is playing. I see what they're saying. Every logical inconsistency, yeah, we're weighing. Is it peer review, but just a mood you pursue? Keep the going legs waiting for truth to be renewed. Step into the arena, face the heat of the light. Can you justify the stance? Can you validate the fight? One-on-one, face the blade. Watch the narrative fade. In the theater of logic, yeah, the history's made. It's a master class, looking through the looking glass. Checking every color of the literature pass. Analysis complete. The findings are conclusive. Zero factual density detected. The lab, Saturday night. Check the sources or get dissected.
And with that, we out.